It's time for Mac Break Weekly. Andy Ihnatko, Renee Ritchie, Alex Lindsay, they're all here. We'll celebrate 10 years of Tim. It was 10 years ago today. Tim Cook became CEO of Apple. We'll take a look back and a look forward at Tim's tenure. There's a new information, anyway, about the Pegasus zero-click iPhone attack that went around Apple's blast door protections. How'd they do that? And then we're going to talk about how T-Mobile is distracting us all by offering a free year of Apple TV+. It's all coming up next on Mac Break Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Mac Break Weekly, episode 780, recorded Tuesday, August 24th, 2021. Ted Lasso's Biscuits. Mac Break Weekly is supported by AT&T Active Armor. We rely so much on our phones these days and are always on them, whether it's live streaming content, catching up with family on weekly video calls, or watching your favorite podcasts. There's no room for fraud calls. Thankfully, AT&T makes customer security a priority, helping block those pesky calls. It's not complicated. AT&T Active Armor, 24/7 proactive network security and fraud call blocking to help stop threats at no extra charge. Compatible device and service required. Visit att.com/activearmor for details. And by Casper. When it comes to a better night's sleep, Casper's new cooling collection has you covered. Focus on tomorrow. Let Casper handle the rest. Explore Casper products, mattresses, sheets, pillows, and more at casper.com/macbreak. And use the code MacBreak for $100 off select mattresses. It's time for Mac Break Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news. With us, of course, the usual Mac Break Weekly magnificent three. We wanted 7, but there weren't enough avatars to go. The table just couldn't fit them. Alex Lindsay is here from officehours.global. 09
Hello.
Media. Come on, do the thing. Do the thing.
Okay.
Do the thing.
Ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Oh, my God, he disappeared.
I don't feel good, Mr. Laporte.
So we're sitting here, we're talking, and everybody's saying, well, we'll wait for Alex to show up, and then he fades in slowly like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It became what someone did it. What happens now is because we're hanging out so much at office hours, someone did it and everyone was like, how did you do that? You know, like it was, and then now, like, I think by the end of this week, everyone will do
It's
it.
not
you
that
know,
hard, right? You just need a key and
well, the ATEM, the Blackmagic, the ATEM Mini, it has a still store, so you can basically just hit record. So you just get out of frame.
You still start
hit record,
chair. Yeah.
and then you auto. You just do an auto
dissolve from one to the other.
Dissolve from one to the other.
We can do it too. I mean, maybe from now
so
on
much
we
fun.
will. I don't know. It's not. I think I should fade into the show. That sounds good.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be perfect. Yeah. Anyway,
Andy Ihnatko
good, clean
is
fun.
The ATEM is really quite capable. It's kind of amazing, actually. Yeah. Andy Ihnatko is also here. WGBH in Boston. Ihnatko.com. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Leo.
But now, if you could fade the sideburns in and out, that would be, or maybe like the Cheshire Cat, just disappear except for the sideburns. That would be cool. Can we work on that? Alex, still store that. Still store that.
Okay. Hang on. Hang on.
Little reconstruction.
Now, let me give you the clean plate, the background plate.
Okay, we're gonna get the background plate, and now all you have to do, Andy is now leaving his seat. There's not a lot of room in there. It's hard to get that clean plate.
I need more side room.
Yeah,
we'll work on that.
It's a small.
We're workshopping it.
It's a small room. Thank you, Andy. And then Renee Ritchie, who has probably all the equipment to do that and more. Hello, Renee, from YouTube's
I have
Renee
all
Ritchie.
the equipment, but no skill.
What is it? What is steamer? That's what your T-shirt says. What is steamer?
Oh, streamer. I think it's just streamer.
Oh, okay. I'm a steamer. You're a streamer. It goes. It's perfect. I love it.
We're both
I want
punks. It's
muscles.
fine.
Speaking of punks, I saw Billy Idol over the weekend. Wow, that was a trip back in time.
You were way up front. You got some great shots. Was that with your phone or with your camera?
So I'm kicking myself because we're in the front row, and then they say, because they're videotaping this, we're going to let you go right up to the rail because the camera operator was right in our way. And I said, okay. So I'm 5 feet away from Mr. Idol. And And then because they were filming it, he would come over. Turns out that the camera that we were next to, they said, Mr. Idol, you should go up to that camera and mug. so I got some good photos, of Billy right up. Was
it the midnight hour?
In the midnight hour. No, we left before that song, believe it or not.
Oh.
We wanted to get out of there before the crush.
You're saying you didn't want more?
Less.
You did your rebel yell, though, didn't you?
I'll be quiet now.
With the rebel yell. But it was fun. It was fun to see him. But what was really fun was seeing the audience because, of course, Mr. Idol was big in the early 80s with the launch of MTV. And the audience, like myself, have aged somewhat. So to see people walking around in studded leather with safety pins through their noses and stuff in their 50s and 60s is quite the sight.
I said, launch the TikTok. I need to get this. I said, launch the TikTok.
Quite the site, not a good site. It wasn't just
there was one guy
site
who I guess was a Billy Idol cosplayer, who had had the spiked hair. I mean, Mr. Idol himself is 65. He's no spring chicken. So, it was quite fun. And yes, I was saying I thought should I bring a camera? Sometimes at concerts they won't let you bring a camera with detachable lenses. I thought, well, I could bring my Leica, but it's 28 millimeters. It'll just be a big stage with a little teeny weeny Idol. I had no idea. Fortunately, I should show this because it really is an example of how good the iPhone is.
Yeah, please do.
I can't because for some reason my Google Photos, which is supposed to have everything I take on my iPhone right, has not yet sunk up.
It has not yet deigned to sync your photos.
It has not deigned. Well, it is on my iPhone. It has them all. So what does that mean? It means that it needs to sync to the web. I could show you. You want to see on the web? I mean, it's better on the web, like an animal, like on a phone. This is him mugging for the camera, which is right next to.
Oh my
right
goodness! It's got video too. That's like suspiciously good. Like you'd see that in an ad. Like, okay, fine. They hired Billy Idol. They built a set for him so that the professional videographer with the phone could stand right there in the light.
I was very fortunate. Yeah, and he came right up and he's shouting, "I want to hear you scream!" And it was an adventure.
Contenting right there, Leo.
Yeah, but I have to say, to make this Apple oriented, I didn't need my special duper camera. This is the telephoto 65 millimeter equivalent lens, and so I was able to get right in his face. It was good.
Let us praise and say things of joy about that camera. That's not an easy shot. That was like intense blue stage lighting behind him.
Oh yeah,
one spotlight of balanced light in front of him.
You'll see
the color balance was not thrown at all.
You see the issue here is that sometimes those lights all you get is a blue haze.
Well, they flare right in front of you.
But I was fortunate that I just kept shooting, right? That's the trick, isn't it?
Yeah.
The advantages of photo stacking.
Just keep shooting. And that was the other thing. I was pretty impressed with, given the lighting, that the camera could kind of handle it. I mean, boy, that's impressive. It's amazing. Now, I admit I shot it vertical. Don't yell at me. That's what the kids do.
Oh, vertical. No, they do diagonal now, Leo. Vertical is just our generation. Yeah. We're finally getting there. Kids are going diagonal. It's fine.
Have we given up on the battle?
Dutch vertical.
Dutch vertical. Dutch the vertical.
Yeah, that's how people are going to be watching these videos on their devices. So don't be one of those nudges who's like, oh, I forbid you to enjoy your phone and enjoy your video the way that you choose to enjoy it. Like, for heaven's sakes.
And I have to say, I was very conscious of people behind me, and I hate it when people are in the front row and they just hold their camera up there and shoot the concert like, oh, good, we'll go watch this over and over again. So I was very judicious. When he came over, I was able to snap real quickly. Here's the shot on this.
And you weren't wearing your fez so that they could see behind you.
And I did not wear my tall fez. And I didn't use an iPad to do it. And I lowered it quickly, so I was cognizant.
Oh, so is a Galaxy Fold considered taking a photo with your phone or with your tablet? Do they face the same? If you open it, are you scorned?
Let me tell you my experience with the last Fold. I'm not getting the new one because I just don't think that it's worth it. But to the last Fold, it is a great experience shooting photos with it because you have a viewfinder like your iPad. In fact, it's actually a little better because the iPad's so big. This is kind of nice. It's like 7 inches. It's like an iPad mini. And it was just really a nice way to shoot. You really see what you're going to get.
Did you get looks? Did people judge you for opening it to take a shot? Did you get judged?
I presume they were amazed that I had a folding phone.
Yeah.
It folds.
Actually, Friday. So I'm not going to get the new Fold 2, but Friday I will get the Flip. I thought, well, I should try the Flip this year. And I was able to trade in the Fold and get some of that money back for the Flip. So
you can borrow it for a month, right? Samsung has a borrowing program.
Pretty much, yeah.
I think they're calling, you get it for 30 days, no questions asked.
They should, because it really is challenging to know whether you're going to like this or not. Although I think even a month is not enough to know if the screen's going to last.
But this is great even for Apple people, because this is really the first generation of a foldable phone that is practical, affordable. It looks like it's going to be very, very popular because pre-orders are kind of through the roof on it, and so this is going to be the thing that Apple takes a look at to say that, okay, well, here's who's buying it. These are the sort of people that are also buying iPhones. Also, the technology seems to be mature enough that if we were to get into it, we could sort of buy. Samsung can probably provide us with enough foldable screens that we can actually do this for real. So this is the first time I think that it's starting to leap from a sort of a thing for early not early adopters even, but early believers, and into something where we can see a year or two from now where pretty much every major product line will have a foldable in it. So it's exciting news for everybody.
Yeah, there were rumors. I think Gurman had them and others that Apple was trialing a folding phone. I mean, you can get those screens from Samsung.
Oh, yeah.
Since 2010, they've been trialing them.
And I think continuously comes up with the answer, not yet, right?
Right.
Which I'm not sure I disagree with. Anyway, that's why I got the Flip. I want to see.
I think everyone who bought the first 3 generations of the Samsung foldables say, not yet. This is not yet. There's a reason why we don't even speak of like the Series 0 Samsung Fold.
Well, there's also it's more than just hardware. Admittedly, I think these screens aren't really quite ready. This one supposedly feels a little better. The last one felt like it had soft rubber on it, which is not a good experience. But let's say they get the screens perfect and then they're getting perfect. You still have to do the software. It's still a big software change. You have to kind of consider
They're forcing
that.
Instagram. They have a mode you can turn on where it forces Instagram to act like a multi-windowing app, which to me is just peak Instagram.
Wow, that's bizarre. Yeah. Well, I'll let you. I'm going to have it Friday. I'll have a hands-on technology review next Wednesday. For you on the Flip Phone 3, and I got the Gear Watch 4. I'm going to say, really, that's a question in my mind. Can I replace an iPhone and an Apple Watch with Samsung Gear NB? Yeah. I know it won't be as good, but
that's a real hard ask.
It is, isn't it? It's challenging.
You put especially when you put the Apple Watch in. There's like, okay, you know what? We were at least willing to play this game and be good losers, but we don't want to have to end the game after the 5th inning because of the slaughter rule.
There is
once your 18 runs ahead.
There
we
is
have to sort of
another rumor that Google may announce a Pixel 6 folding phone this year.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for.
Really?
Yeah, they said so.
You'd rather get it from Google than Samsung because it's cleaner?
Yeah.
I like Samsung, but Google is just last year I felt Google was lost. I just had no idea what they were doing anymore. And this year they felt like they got their crap together again. And I generally prefer Google's implementation than Samsung's.
I'm with you exactly. I think the Pixel 6 will be my Android phone. Andy, you use a Pixel, right? Not a Samsung.
I have a 4A that I bought last year.
You're due, man.
And
you're due.
Well, it's the thing. Well, the thing is,
actually, it's a pretty good phone.
Google has really shown their ability to make an exceptionally good $350 phone. And this is why I bought it kind of as a stopgap, thinking that my Pixel 1 was now officially no longer being supported with security updates, so it had to go. But I bought this as a stopgap, thinking that if I don't see an iPhone that excites me in 2021, or if I don't see a Pixel phone that excites me in 2021, I'll have absolutely no problem sitting with this for another year. But either way, I'm glad to see so much. I'm glad to see that I don't have to be kind of resigned to new phone announcement from Google. I wonder if they'll have a new color in the body, but still have a 3-year-old camera sensor and basically just basic improvements.
It's interesting. Google has Apple envy because they're going to put supposedly their own system on a chip. Although I think we know now that it's Samsung's making it, so I don't know how googly it will be.
Yeah, it's an Exynos chip with
with some Google MI, or ML.
I'm really glad that they're doing a foldable phone, and I'm really glad people are buying it. But I'm going to wait and just watch it.
Yeah, you should.
I'm glad they're getting through all those cycles, but I'm just amazed that people will pay to be really a beta tester.
Pay a lot.
This is like you're paying into the beta program.
These are not cheap. But see, that's I'm doing it because I should do it so you don't have to, right? That's
right.
They're early adopters who just love that stuff. Like they buy like edge case everything. They just want the latest. Right. Different. Like they're so bored with modern technology, they'll take anything that's different. They want to be part of the experimenting process. It's like an explorer. I totally admire that.
Yeah. And Apple, meanwhile, just tries all this stuff. In fact, the rumor is that the underscreen camera on the Galaxy Fold, not rumor, reviews are it's terrible. What a surprise. Apple was looking at something like that, but I think the notch survives, according to rumor, in the iPhone 13.
It's not ready for mass market.
Apparently, Apple's also rejecting the underscreen fingerprint reader for next year. At least that's again rumor.
I mean, you got to be really, really a finicky design person to decide that a simple hole punch in the screen is just so offensive to your sensibilities that it has to go. It doesn't matter if you compromise the front-facing camera. It doesn't matter if it makes it completely hard to use and compromises how easy it is to sign in on the device. I really think that's a way too hard line of stance to take. I don't even mind the notch on the iPhones. It's like it serves a purpose. It gives you some extra screen real estate. Apple has done a great job of taking advantage of the two like little kitty ears on the left and the right, so it's not as though it's completely wasted space. And when you're watching full screen video, because of the way they've designed it into the frame, you don't even notice that part of the screen is missing. So there's some things I think that you really have to be a design wonk to just be, oh my goodness. And
I also think it's design. So I don't think it's design. I think they have two tensions that they're always facing. One is the Asian market is such a wicked spec flex that they feel pressure from Huawei and all those other pieces. Like they're doing it. We have to do it. We have to do it first. We have to do it bigger. But also they sell so much. I think half of every phone they make is like, we can offer you these components. We're going to show you the components we offer. If you'd like some of them, please come buy them because that's where we make most of our money.
Well, and I think that I still think there's an opportunity for Apple to have a pro phone, like a real pro phone with hey, we're just going to take the same sensor and lens and everything else from the back of the phone and put it on the front of the phone, and we're just going to make it longer, put an array of LiDAR and other things all down the side. And there's people like me that would buy that easily. Like we wouldn't think anything of it, and I don't think I'm the only person that would buy it. I mean, we've talked a lot about it, and I think that anybody doing again, Instagram or creators, but anybody who really wants to take those photos, you could charge a premium for that and have just great sensors and photos on the front, and not worry about it. Just make it black, and put a bunch of things down that side for those of us who want to play hard. I think that's an opportunity that Apple really is one of the few companies that could take advantage of that.
So let's. I guess it's a little too early to take a break. I want to do a tribute to Tim Cook because this is the 10th anniversary of him becoming Apple's CEO, and I want to take some time with that. So I guess it's not too early to do. We'll do a quick break, and then when we come back, 10 years of Tim, and we have some fun pictures to go with it. Our show today brought to you by AT&T Active Armor. Oh, this is a godsend. These days you use your phone all the time, not just to listen to this show or watch it or stream from your favorite streaming service, Loki or Mandalorian or whatever, but catching up on family video calls. We do that every week in our family. It's really fun to talk to everybody who's far flung. The last thing you want to do in the middle of any of that is get a fraudulent call saying your auto warranty has run out. Well, thankfully, AT&T makes customer security a priority, helping block those pesky calls. It's not complicated. AT&T Active Armor, 24/7 proactive network security and fraud call blocking to help stop threats at no extra charge. Compatible devices, service required. Visit att.com/Active Armor for details. Thank you, AT&T, for your support of Mac Break Weekly. Tim Cook, 10 years ago. I love this picture. I don't know what he's looking at. Something up there in the heavens. Maybe he's looking at Steve. I don't know. It was 10 years ago, actually, that Steve Jobs sent that famous letter naming Tim Cook as the new CEO of Apple, he said Apple is not going to change. But, of course, one of the pieces of advice Cook has later said that Steve Jobs gave him is not to ask what Steve would do, but to ask what he would do. Great, I think piece in Apple Insider this week by William Gallagher. Speaking of pictures, there's some great pictures of, here's Tim a little bit younger with Steve. During this kind of transitional phase where Tim was being groomed, he was this chief operating officer being groomed to take over as CEO. But this is my favorite row of pictures. Tim Cook from 1978, which means he must have been in high school, right? 1982, that's probably at Auburn. Then as a young, where did he start his career? Wasn't at Apple, was it?
Compaq before
Compaq,
Apple.
that's right. Yeah.
He really was marked for greatness early on. He apparently, if you look at the jobs that he took and how quickly he escalated from company to company, he definitely had his. It's almost as if he decided that my job in life is to run a big organization that can make change at a world level. Because he was there are people who take a job and they want to do a great job at that one place. They found their home and they want to stay there. And there are other people who are like, I've learned everything I can here. Where can I go next to learn more? That's always been, I think, most impressive thing.
As a high school senior, which is this left-hand picture with the fro, he decided to go to Auburn, where he did study, in fact, computer science, coding, and technology. Went from Auburn right out of school to IBM. The PC had launched in 81. He graduated in 82, so he joined the team at the Research Triangle in North Carolina working on the PC. He spent a dozen years working on the PC, and then, as you said, he went on to Compaq. One of the things that he kind of pioneered in those early years before he went to Apple was just-in-time manufacture, and that's the thing he brought to Apple, was this idea of you make it when you need it, not before. You don't stockpile a lot of stuff in a warehouse.
And I think that's what, I mean, there's I think a saying that from Omar Bradley that, amateurs talk about strategy and professionals talk about logistics.
Right.
And what he really brought to Apple over time was logistics, of really understanding how to, get the most out of the supply chain in a stable way. And a cost-effective way as well.
Yeah.
Given what they were doing.
Briefly, in between IBM and Compaq, he worked at a company called Intelligent Electronics. He was a chief operating officer there. This is also from the great piece in Apple Insider. He had a serious illness, or a serious scare anyway. They thought he might have multiple sclerosis, which, of course, is a degenerative disease and would have changed the course of his life. It turned out it was just exhaustion. He had just worked himself into a state, i.e. sold in 1997 to General Electric. Cook left and joined Compaq. But you have to think that this whole time Cook is learning the logistics part. I think it's a pithy quote, Alex. But you do have to make strategy at some point. You can't. Yeah. You got to do more than just build supply lines to your existing.
No, it's just that those logistics, the logistics support you to make the strategy. You can do it. You have to have a plan for where you're going to go.
Yeah, good point.
But if you don't have, a bigger plan of how to actually get it done, it doesn't matter what you want to do.
He joined Apple March 11th, 1998. He spoke about the decision in a commencement speech at MIT. He said, "I was never going to find my purpose working someplace without a clear sense of purpose of its own." He's talking about Compaq here. "I tried meditation. I sought guidance in religion. I read great philosophers and authors. In a moment of youthful indiscretion, I might even have experimented with a Windows PC." And obviously, that didn't work. He got an offer from Apple, March 1998, $500,000 signing bonus, $400,000 a year salary. So it was a good move. Deidre O'Brien, who's currently head of Apple Retail, was Apple People, says, "To this day, I remember meeting Tim, and right off the bat, it was very clear he was very focused. He was incredibly excited about being at Apple. He had a big job to do. You could tell he knew he had a mission. He was looking for a mission, and he found one at Apple. So a year, 6 months after joining, he got Apple's inventory down from 30 days to 6. The following year, he got it down to 2. This is that just-in-time manufacturing. So very interesting. There's 2 questions though as we look back at 10 years. One, has it been a good 10 years from Apple? I think you'd have to say yes.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think he brought anything. Did he bring anything new to the table? Is there? The Apple Watch was already a product, going to be a product. He introduced it, but it was already going to be a product. Certainly, the iPad and the iPhone and the Mac were long-standing products by the time he took over as CEO.
I think there's a lot of probably things coming, and those are pretty good business models. pretty good product line. It's hard to come up with something that is truly revolutionary every year. I think that even Apple only did it a couple times, I think he has fared better than Steve would in some ways, in just being able to manage the very complex, both global infrastructure as well as the politics. Steve didn't really have any time for that. So I think that he's been able to work through a lot of things that I don't think Steve would have handled as well.
There's no question he was a perfect foil for Steve. He was the down-to-earth operations guy, could manage the politics, could manage the company. But for the first 10 years of his, more than that, 12 years of his tenure at Apple, he had Steve Jobs to kind of say charge and to point the company in the direction it was going to go. To some degree, I think it was always our concern back in 2011 that he would just continue to go in that direction, but wouldn't forge new paths. Andy?
I don't think. Yeah, I think it's the more interesting question for me is Apple in a better position today than it was 10 years ago? And I think the answer is definitely yes. One of the biggest questions that analysts and even people who like Apple were asked themselves is, okay, but look at how much of your revenue is coming from the iPhone. What happens when somebody BlackBerry's Apple, if such a thing is possible, and suddenly it's no longer relevant, or suddenly everybody can make a phone that's as good and as attractive as an iPhone, only if they want a purple one, they can get one in purple. And now every time that there's a new revenue chart, it's still making the lion's share of money off of the iPhone, but services, accessories, those are just gaining, knowing that this is not a one-trick pony. That I used to think that they were a hardware design company, and they're a design company that likes to express its art through the creation of technology designs. Now, I really do think that they have an aesthetic that they can apply to pretty much any product that they want to put out there, even if it's just pushing electrons through a wire. So I'm not going to guess whether Apple would be in as good a position under Steve or not. I can't predict that sort of thing, but I think very, very clearly that if people had any question as to whether Apple could survive without Steve Jobs at the helm, now it's almost impossible to imagine a world without Apple as a dominant player, as an influential and independent player on the world stage.
And we were talking before the show about how I don't think the financial markets are germane to whether a company is good or not. It's just the financial bet on whether the company is going to make money in the future. But I should point out that the Apple stock price did go up 1,022% under Cook's leadership, which is not insignificant. They become a nearly $2 trillion company under him.
And I think that the revenue has gone up a little bit too. In addition to the stock price, it's not just that the stock price has gone up. It is that Apple just continues to perform better than each quarter, almost in straight lines. Every quarter from the year before. So it's quite a thing. To be able to do at that size. And the thing that right now is kind of what's scaring people about Apple right now is that in many ways it's still moving like a startup, and it's this massive company. So when you start doing things like when we talk about as Apple doing something revolutionary, the system on a chip is going to be a big deal. This is going to change a lot of things as it keeps on growing. Because now they have a unified architecture, and that is going to be very, very hard to compete and very, very hard to replicate. I mean, other people are talking about it, but saying they're going to do it and doing it are two very, very different things.
Yeah, that's a really good example of taking a precept of Steve Jobs, which is you've got to make the whole stack, and using your operational ability to actually make it happen.
I mean, and when you look at the scale of that, I mean, you have to be at Apple's scale to be able to do that. You have to have those products to be able to do that. And when they start talking about in the quarterly legacy components, it means that they're not done yet. You know, like they're going to get rid of all of it, you know, until they own the whole stack, you know, and at that point, their ability to innovate very quickly and very quietly, you know, and because they have Xcode, because they have, this is a very, very vertical integration that becomes very, very difficult to compete with because it is so efficient, you know, and so that's going to be something. And I think that's something that is very much what Steve dreamt about doing, and I think Tim is executing it.
Apple was worth $349 billion. God, it's hard to believe. $349 billion when Cook took over. It's now more than $2.45 trillion. He added $2 trillion to Apple's market value. That's pretty good. I mean, that's a success. I mean, certainly that is the number one job of a CEO. I guess his report card's going to depend a little bit on what Apple does next. Yes? Whether AR or the car or whatever else they've got going. I think Apple Silicon is a plus. But then what's next, right? How do you productize that?
I think the most important thing for any company, particularly at that scale, is to earn the ability to call their own destiny. And Apple certainly has that. It's a problem when you find yourself in a position where, oh my God, we haven't had a market-beating product since we released the AirPods. So we have to come up with something that gets people's attention and really, really sells in the quadrillions of units. Like, well, no, Apple just simply has to keep doing they just have to keep their game plan. They don't have to be dictated to by the marketplace right now. They can continue to drive their company in a place that they think makes sense for their business strategy, their product lines, their goals, their aesthetic, and all that other sort of stuff. Whether they get there strictly by services, whether they get there by creating a product that does take people's imagination, like if only God can imagine a pair of like sunglasses that are so stylish that just like the Apple Watch, just like the AirPods, that people will want to be seen wearing them, whether they need glasses or not, and yet packs actual practical functionality in them. Again, that would be revolutionary. That's something that Tim is excited about. It's one of the few things that is an unannounced Apple product that Tim will talk about during calls and during interviews. So you know that's something that is going to happen come hell or high water. But that's really not about the next breakthrough product. That's something that a smaller company really, really has to keep focusing on. And one of the things that we can't ignore is that it's Apple against pretty much everybody else in that space. One of the reasons why Apple is able to make the whole widget, as we say, and create that whole chip, now working on their own modem chips, doing whatever they want, is because they are the only company that makes phones that run iOS. Whereas if they did have to compete with an entire world market that has to create an Indian localized phone, not just for local laws and production requirements, but also because of this market is different from any other world market. If they had to compete state by state by state worldwide, that would be something they're really not capable of doing, and they would be in big, big trouble. The fact that they have managed to define a phone market that is all theirs, that again they can control, and they don't have to respond. They don't have to create a blister pack $50 phone that has smart features and can run Facebook Messenger. They don't have to do that if they don't want to, and clearly they have taste and they don't want to.
Renee, is it augmented reality you think that's going to be the next big thing? They don't have to, but I feel like they need to, they want to, right? And services, as much as they've propelled Apple forward, aren't going to be the next big thing, I don't think, for Apple. Is it augmented reality? What do you think?
Because I think my audio's been off for a while.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Have you been trying to say something?
What happened to you? We were like, what happened?
I just thought he was being polite and letting us windbags take over.
I tried to reboot a couple times, but it didn't seem to work.
Oh, now we hear you.
Oh no.
Go ahead.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I can best answer this through like this little anecdote, which I thought was delightful. And it's from a couple of years ago when I flew into San Francisco airport and I was on my way to an Apple event. And the Uber driver said that she used, or the Lyft driver said that she used to work for Tim Cook. And you always hear these kind of stories. So I very casually and quickly just LinkedIn searched for the name on the Lyft thing. And lo and behold, she was head of Mac logistics for a long time under Tim Cook. And she retired when a lot of it moved to China because she didn't want to have to travel. But she said he was amazing. She would come in every week and she would give him her report. He'd remember what was in the exact spreadsheet cell from like 3 or 4 weeks ago, a month ago. He had an incredible memory for that stuff. But one day he didn't sound like himself. And she asked him what was going on. And he said, Steve's making me go work in marketing for a while.
Oh, wow.
And she said, what do you mean? He's like, he says I have to know how to run the whole company. And I'm really good at my job, but I've never done marketing. And I don't really understand all these things. And I think that's Steve's point. And so he put him in charge of a product, the way that they've put like Jeff Williams in charge of Apple Watch, and every executive has to run at least one product these days. And he was just like, he knew it was an important step in becoming Apple, but it was just a complete fish out of water situation for him. And then a while later, she came back and he could describe all the materials in the staircases in Apple retail stores and how they were putting together the user experience for a particular product. And it sounded like it was an incredible shift in focus for him. And because his perspective is so logistical based, like he was codifying what Apple was. Like Steve was just very top of my head and almost like a Pixar-like sense. Before Disney bought them, you had profound genius, but also a few complete flubs. And at Apple, you had profound Steve Jobs genius, but also a few like really bad takes. That it would be like normalized but codified in like Apple University, but also in the Tim Cook doctrine, which is Apple only invests in technologies where they think they can make a substantive difference in the experience that they provide to users, like they can have an impact. And I think that's why he's willing to talk about AR and AI, these types of products, because to him, they're like screen technology. Everything has a display, so talking about displays isn't a big deal. And in the future of Apple, everything will have some component of automation, artificial intelligence, silicon, and augmented reality. And that's really where he sees the vision. And he'll say like healthcare is the most important thing Apple ever worked on, but getting to there is probably going to involve a whole bunch of robots, a whole bunch of machine learning, and a whole bunch of silicon to power it all. And I think that's sort of what Tim brings to the Apple table. It's his ability to do all of that stuff with really good logistics. To that famous saying, only Steve Jobs could imagine an iPad, but only Tim Cook could produce it for $500.
It's really a credit to Steve Jobs and maybe to serendipity or good luck that they found a guy that was such a perfect replacement. And obviously, I remember that as Steve was getting sicker and sicker, a lot of the conversation was, is he doing anything to prepare for succession? Because there was, as usual with Apple, there was no announcement, there was no obvious movement going on, but clearly he was when he's telling somebody like Tim Cook, okay, now you got to spend time in marketing. That's very clear. So Steve Jobs picked exactly right guy, and then made sure he was equipped to take over at exactly the right time. So a lot of credit to Steve Jobs for that as well.
And a credit to Tim Cook in the he's the type of person that was willing to stay in the back, behind Steve until it was time for him to step forward.
Well, so that's another reason why he was the perfect Apple man, right? That's what you wanted, right?
But that's hard to find. You work in a lot of companies, and executives get they get impatient.
Oh yeah.
And they want to they want to move forward. They want to push things onward, and that becomes problematic.
There's a long trail of people who've left Microsoft because they realized they were never going to get to be CEO, right? And Microsoft's a perfect antithesis to this.
Or you see them knifing Sundar in a newspaper because he got his job.
Yeah. Where it's just really, it's kind of competitive. It's kind of survivor to get to be CEO. But Apple, this is where Apple really is a remarkable company. They're very cohesive. Everybody's kind of pulling the oars in the same direction.
Yeah, I think part of the key is that they're legendary for not making each of their like top tier vice presidents and division heads feel as though like they're jockeying for resources, they're jockeying for attention, they're jockeying for the company's focus. It's you can get so much out of people that you're working with if you make sure that they are genuinely part of the big picture and genuinely part of the process. I think it's amazing that Apple, once you get into the VP suites at Apple, once you're one of, let's say, those 6 people that tend to appear on stage who are not engineers during keynotes and stuff, these people they don't just stick around until they get a good offer to be a CEO someplace else. They're lifers.
That's really true.
It's not because of the money, I'm sure, because after 3 or 4 years in that job, you have no need of any money whatsoever. That is the residue of people who are feeling fulfilled and satisfied. And once you're at that level, you start to think about, how am I making the best use of my time on this planet? Am I using my point of view to make positive change for the world? And sometimes it really is a commercial thing, not necessarily feeding the hungry. It really is just about creating a good service or a good product. And these people are feeling fulfilled apparently.
Company like Microsoft, I think, has the point of view that it needs to be Darwinian. That whoever can survive the competition is the guy who should get to do the job. And there's a constant turnover there. Apple has this. Yeah. It must go back to Steve, and it must go back to the second coming of Steve and the kinder, gentler
Steve. It's the functional organization too. It's like every one of those organizations is basically run like a company. Like the senior vice presidents are basically presidents of their own company. Like Eddie Q has his own events team, his own marketing team, his own software development team, and that's just for that's like not Craig's team. That's Eddie's software development team for like iWork and all the other stuff. And Craig has HI. Like they all have these incredibly functional organizations, and it'd be hard. Never mind be the CEO of Apple. It would be hard to have a position as influential as being the senior vice president of software at Apple or services at Apple, or like Angela left Burberry, CEO of Burberry, to be senior vice president of retail at Apple.
She did not stick around though, jobs. Which is interesting. She was the counterexample because of all the high level executives.
That's all she was going to do.
Yeah, yeah. But then there's people like Kevin Lynch, who just got moved over to cars. It's like clearly these people are team players. And just like a good football team, when they're told, okay, you're playing a new position tomorrow, they go, okay, put me in, coach.
Well, he's designing experiences. Like his genius was being able to make an experience that would last 2 seconds on an Apple Watch. And now they need an experience that'll last at a glance on a car dashboard. Yeah. And so like they all have very specific, like Alex, they have very particular skills and they're being deployed to exercise.
This is very touching. I remember this. It was in the evening, August 24th, 2011, after the markets had closed, Apple released this. To the Apple board of directors and the Apple community, I've always said, Steve Jobs writing, if there ever came a day when I could no longer meet my duties and expectations as Apple's CEO, I would be the first to let you know. Unfortunately, that day has come. He was very sick by this time. I hereby resign as CEO of Apple. I would like to serve, if the board sees fit, as chairman of the board, director, and Apple employee. As far as my successor goes, I strongly recommend that we execute our succession plan and name Tim Cook as CEO of Apple. I believe Apple's brightest and most innovative days are ahead of it, and I look forward to watching and contributing to its success in a new role. I've made some of the best friends of my life at Apple, and I thank you all for the many years of being able to work alongside you. Very poignant because, of course, it was only about 4 months after that he passed away.
And the reverence that Tim always has for Steve, like you hear it in his talks and in his quotes, where he would say, "Sorry, my boss is calling," or "I've got to go see the boss now." It's just, it never changed.
And I wonder at this point if some of that is part of keeping the, if to keep everybody rowing in the same direction, you have to have a kind of a fundamental belief and founding concept that everybody buys into, almost a mythos that everybody buys into and says, "Yeah, we're going to do that." And Steve is a big part of that, right? And I think Tim would be, I think it's wise of Tim to continue to revere Steve while saying we're going to forge our own way forward. We're going to do what's right for the company.
Mythology.
But you have to have that mythos, don't you?
Well, you definitely have to have a culture. I mean, I think that the culture is, there's often a story that bounces around about, an engineer walked in on a Monday and asked Steve how his weekend was, Just an innocuous thing. And Steve didn't even look at him and just said, how about we bring up the intelligence of the conversation?
That's very Steve Jobs. But that was also that was the first generation Steve Jobs, right?
No, that was
Steve 2.0.
No,
okay.
That's not the first generation. But the thing about Apple is that, it's in a lot of those meetings. I mean, what you hear a lot is that those meetings are pretty focused. There's not a lot of there's a reason that there's a meeting here, and we're going to meet until for that reason. And there's not a lot of kicking other things around during that meeting. I mean, you can do that at lunch. You can do it in more. But if you have a meeting about something, you're going to have the meeting about that thing. And you're not going to talk about a lot of other things other than that thing. And it's a very, very focused culture. And compared to a lot of the other companies that are in the same space.
Right. So I said there were two questions. The next one is, who's next? Tim's 60. He's probably going to be there 5 more years. But I imagine, just as Steve had a succession plan, Tim must be thinking along those lines. Yes or no? He has said he's not leaving anytime soon.
Jeff Williams.
It's Williams.
Yeah, he's done the same thing with Jeff Williams. He's put him in charge of things.
The current COO.
He's Yeah, so he was basically working for him in logistics, and then he became chief operating officer when Tim Cook became CEO shortly thereafter. And then because he was getting more and more expansive duties, the same way Steve made Tim do more and more things, Jeff was put in charge of the watch, put in charge of health, put in charge.
There's
now
only one problem with that.
He's
only 2 years younger than Tim.
But he's so tall, Leo.
I mean, don't you want somebody who's in his 40s or 50s, maybe?
Well, you want if you get hit by a bus person, and then you probably want the next 50 years person, and they're not always the same person.
Right. Luca Maestri,
Also,
Eddie Q, Kevin Lynch.
Sexy Craig Federighi.
Let's not forget the hair.
I mean, I think you.
Do you go by how many buttons they leave open?
I mean, I think you have to look at any of the senior vice presidents. I mean, those are all
of them are in the running. Yeah.
In the play, yeah.
Yeah.
Jaws is a genius.
Let's not forget Jaws. Yeah, I always think of Jaws as more of a technical guy than a.
He is.
But I've always, I mean, he's probably the senior executive I spent the most time with one-on-one, and he always really impressed me as someone who is a very, very fluid, flexible, and lateral thinker. Where he seems to have a mindset that he can apply to a whole bunch of different topics and a whole bunch of different problems, as opposed to this is what he was trained to do. He does that really well, and he will hire some people to help him out with the other stuff. And he also has the ability to really get people. I feel as though he has the ability to get people pushing and pulling in the same directions. Ideally, only one at the identical time, at the way that a really good CEO should. So, I mean, I've no idea about inside baseball about things like that, but yeah, I mean, that's the name that I would be thinking about if that would get me really interested. You're definitely not going to get somebody who isn't a real lifer, because that really is an absolute culture. You need to groom a man or a woman to be an Apple type CEO. Almost as maybe that's one of the reasons why you don't see them jumping ship, because after 10 years at Apple, they're really not housebroken for other companies anymore. They're not, and they're used to, wait a minute, but the senior vice presidents and the CEO said that this is a priority for the company. Why are you not doing this? Well, because I got this offer from Waymo. Like, well, screw Waymo. You're working for Apple now. I
have to say, though, one of the benefits of Tim Cook was that he had a career at IBM and Compaq. He had some outside experience. He was at Apple 13 years before he became CEO. So maybe that's the best of both worlds, because it's nice to get some other genetics into the DNA.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Or maybe not.
Well, at the senior vice president level, they really all seem like they're not brothers and sisters, but they're at the minimum cousins. You can see the shared DNA of the thinking of all of them. So you don't really have that one maverick who turns up on CNN saying something that disagrees with I really think we did screw up this idea about screening people's photos on device. I mean, I was against it, but we always talk about you don't have people flying off the coop like that.
Yeah. I mean, Eddie Q's been there since '89, Jaws since '86. Craig Federighi has actually been at Apple twice.
Next.
He was at Next too. Yeah. John Andrea is probably the most recent guy on the team. He came from Google, many years at Google. I don't know. It's an interesting. So it's in this group of 12 anyway.
But you're right.
Number one, amazing. It'd be like silicon is unforgiving.
Wouldn't that be interesting to see Saruji?
Meeting.
Yeah, he's only been there since 2008. So he was Intel and IBM before that.
What an impact.
You are right. All of these faces have a bunch of things in common. Not only that I think they're all white. Not only that there's only I think one senior vice president who's a woman, but also because I think almost all of these people have been with Apple long enough to have had Steve Jobs as a boss or at the top of the tree. I think it's going to be most interesting when most of the senior vice presidents, for them, Steve Jobs is a legend.
Isn't that interesting?
That floats around the place.
There's two women. There's Catherine Adams as the general counsel, along with Deirdre O'Brien. Yeah, it's interesting. And then you have this second tier of people like Lisa Jackson, Phil Schiller. I guess Phil's Phil's not around really anymore, is he?
He runs the events in the App Store still.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought he was mostly out.
He's an Apple fella.
I mean, the App Store might not have been as big a deal as he thought it was going to be this year. In terms of how
they gave him a tough assignment, actually. They said, hey, congratulations, you're running App Store.
But look at it. They like an Apple fellow, you're going to get App Store and events. Oh, by the way, there's a pandemic. We're going to change the entire way we do events. Oh, by the way, we're being sued by everybody. Yeah. You're going to have to do a lot of stuff with the App Store this year.
Yeah.
He's like, can I give those to Jaws too? Nope.
So anyway, it's a good time for a victory lap for Tim Cook. 10 years in as CEO, no question, he's made this company hugely successful and its shareholders very wealthy. But he's also, I think, been a good steward of the Steve Jobs legacy. But that there is always that nagging question: what are you going to do? What's going to be where are you going to put your mark, Tim? What will people look back and say, oh, that was the Tim Cook thing?
Well, I actually see that as a positive thing. That his priority is keeping Apple successful, keeping Apple productive and influential, and making sure the character of Apple's remains relevant for 2021. I would be very, very concerned about like a Jean-Louis Gasset who was like, I need to have a Steve Jobs type product, Newton message pad.
Right.
Get that off the whiteboard. Start making it. I want a keynote about this in about a year. So it's not a bad thing.
And I think that there's been an incredible amount of patience on Apple. Apple is like, they're spooling up a lot. You can see the spooling. You know, when you look at the AR thing, they're solving so many problems. Google just popped out and said, okay, we're going to do AR 5 years ago. Yeah. And there was no groundwork. There was no foundation. There was no process. You know, Apple is slowly giving us all these tools that we need to create all that, to take full advantage of it. And that takes so much to stay, to be willing and to be able to work on products for a decade and be able to, you know, slowly year by year by year roll out the pieces that you need and letting people assimilate those pieces before you roll out something that's going to be bigger and more interesting. I think that Apple, you know, the last decade was better than this last decade. Was better than the decade before it, which was definitely better than the decade before that.
Right.
And I think the next decade is going to be better than this one. I mean, you know, it is. You know, I think they have a lot in front of them, and there's a lot of places they could go. I think if anything, Apple limits itself by its focus. I think it makes sense that it's focused, but there are so many verticals of people making bad products.
Right.
There's so many places for them to go. You know, like cars and possibly AR. Those are good ones to go. But I look at everything in my kitchen just go, oh, there's almost no product that I think Apple couldn't do much better than what I have now.
You know,
and I just go,
there's
and I would
a lot
buy
of
it.
discipline, and that's what Steve Jobs brought back, and Steve 2.0, and Tim is very disciplined. I think that's exactly right. I think AR, if anything, in 5 years, if we're talking about Tim Cook's plans to retire, if anything, you're going to say Apple Silicon. And you're going to say, I would bet AR. Because if the problem with AR is it's unknown, there's technical difficulties that are challenging, and it's unknown if those will be solved, like battery life and things. But if they can solve those, there's no question AR could succeed the iPhone as the product.
How does that compete with a dancing Tesla robot? I mean, I think that's what the bar is right now.
Apple is not making a dancing robot. Yeah. Let's make that very clear.
But see this. Let's also take a look at Elon Musk as like the ghost of Christmas yet to come. Like, hope is this the future that might be? And it's not the one that could be. Could we have like a bonehead CEO who keeps making asinine promises that absolutely the engineers are like, oh, holy crap, we're doing a dancing robot now. But I'm not quite as bullish on AR. I think that. I mean, if there's one thing that Apple is definitely working on that could be the Newton message pad, it is augmented reality, because if they get this wrong, they could have an amazingly cool piece of technology that people look at and say, but this doesn't help me in anything that I do in my daily life, and or this is not something you've just like one of the problems of the message pad was it was something you're supposed to carry with you everywhere that does not fit in a jacket pocket. And perhaps if I like AR, sounds great, sounds wonderful, but I'm not keeping these things on my face like more than 20 minutes at a time. So it is a gamble. Well, they could solve all those problems, maybe, but that is not a definite.
It's not a given. Not a given. Although if you could make it happen, I think it would be hugely successful. But it has to be done right. Does Apple? This actually begs a question: does Tim Cook have to come up with the next big thing, or can they just continue as they are? I mean, it's kind of accepted canon that you should.
I think you have to make a metaverse now, Leo. If you have to make a metaverse now, it's like you just have to.
Yeah, well, Jesus. AR is the metaverse if it's done right.
Well, I think
AR,
that,
VR,
I think
internet.
The fact that it works on iPads and iPhones now mean that you don't have to put glasses on; they just make them better. And so there's so many things. We were talking. I mean, we were brainstorming the other day about wouldn't it be great, like the weird little things. But all these restaurants, you walk up and you go up to a QR code now, and your menu comes down. And I was like, what I really want is to be able to basically find something in the menu, click on it, and then look at it in front of me like, this is how big it is. Because I thought about it because I ordered some noodles at a Thai shop, and I got 3 times more than I expected. And I was like, it'd be really good if I knew how big this was going to be and exactly what it would look like. Kind of like the Japanese, when you walk into a Japanese restaurant and all the things are plastic on the front. I just want that, but in 3D. And the thing is that what Apple's building is that's going to be very, very possible, very, very, like it's almost possible now, and so the thing is that we're going to get now for the glasses, it depends on the battery life and everything else. But with my phone, I could do it. And it is going to change. The thing is that there'll be places that use it. When you look at tourism, being able to add things to what you're walking through, and then education. When it becomes something like, even now, if I text you a USDZ and you tap on it, you can immediately see it to scale in front of you, and we're using that already now. In some of our productions, where we're sending things back and forth like, this is what I want it to look like, and we see it right now, and the big thing is that you have all these phones that are already capable of doing it. So it's not like you have to persuade everybody to get glasses to get it to launch.
That's a nice feature. That's not a world-changing product.
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, that is a good example, and that I could see people enjoying that kind of thing at a restaurant, but realize that it's not a given that if I go to a restaurant's website, they will list like what hours they're open, what their address is in a place that's obvious. Most of the time when I go to a restaurant, it's a big deal if they have a QR code, and really pretty much the only reason why they're doing that is because they need to make things contactless now. So they're not as big of fans of having as spreading around actual physical menus, but when physical menus were around, it was something that was just spooled off of a laser printer or photocopied. So what I'm getting at is that it's not.
Do we really think we're going back?
It's not as though.
Yeah, I think we're going back. I totally think we're going back.
Again,
QR code is not as good an experience as a menu.
I think that most people, when they go to a restaurant, at least the current generation, the current reality, they want to open a menu, and pictures are great, but they want to read what's going on. They don't want to say, okay, well, first of all,
no high-end restaurant has pictures on their menu.
Take out your phone.
That's Denny's level.
Aim your camera at this
or
target
prices,
here.
Leo. Or
prices. Well, maybe not. Yeah.
That's the thing I'm talking about. I mean, it doesn't. Again, it'll be VR glasses are the science fiction ideal, and there are ways to do AR without it. But we still have to think it's not just a demo. It's not. QuickTime had to be explained as something other than, hey, now you can paste a video inside a Word document, which is how Apple originally rolled it out. Just like you can't just say, here's the Newton message pad. Now you can make an appointment by writing with a pen on a glass glass screen, and not in a world in the mid 90s where people were still using filofaxes because the damn things worked. They were easy to duplicate. They were easy to integrate into
I
other
think we can safely say, though, that the paper planner is on its way out, Andy.
No. I'm saying in 1996.
Yeah.
That in 1996.
I'm not sure the paper menu
that was
on its way
another
out.
reason why. That's what I'm getting at. There are a lot of great use cases for AR, not the sort of use cases that say here is a wearable device you're going to wear on your wrist that'll do all kinds of things for you. That was a kind of a no-brainer because if you wear watches, it will still tell you the time, and it doesn't cost that much more than a nice watch.
I was skeptical though, and I think people had stopped wearing watches, and I was very skeptical that the watch would be a hell of a product. It took a few years before it really became a must-have.
Because Apple didn't have any idea what it was for in the first year.
There was no killer app at first. Yeah.
And the iPhone was a huge hit because it turns out that when you delete it was not necessarily because it was a multi-touch device, but because it was the first one where Wi-Fi was not just something you turn on and was kind of a nice thing to have. A data connection over mobile broadband was not simply a nice thing to have so you can get your text messages and get your emails. It was integral to the experience of the device. That's what made it relevant to absolutely everybody. So that's what we're waiting for with AR, something that is fundamental, something that is about the amount of nitrogen you have in the atmosphere that allows mammals like us to evolve, thrive, and survive. That's the sort of we need nitrogen for augmented reality.
To some extent, the phone created its own need. I don't think before the phone people said, "Oh, I got to have some way to get my notifications." I think it created the need for it, and I think it's possible. I think it's probable AR will create a need for it. Well, I do disagree with you, Alex, though, that menus are on their way out. I know you. You of all people like QR codes, but
I'm not saying that menus are on their way out. I'm just saying that there are a lot of restaurants where that being able to add it would change what you bought. Because I know that half the time I go to restaurants, I'm like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what it's going to be when it comes out.
I guess
until I've been there a couple times, and so anyway, I don't think that it's an either. None of these things are either.
Last restaurant I was at, no menu, no QR code. They just brought you what they brought you, and you better eat it.
Like omakase, right?
Also known as Mom's Kitchen.
It was a 3-star Michelin restaurant. So,
but isn't that what you're talking about with the iPhone? Is that it was a conflict, like a coming together of several different technologies. It was like mobile internet was finally ready, and we had the ability to make miniaturized device. Like Apple, all their training under the iPod readied them, and the advent of Safari. BlackBerry was betting so heavily that we would need physical keyboards and proxied internet, and that data savings was the most important thing. And it was like Apple said, no, we're getting rid of the keyboard, and we're going to let everyone have full broadband. And it was just completely inverse thinking of the time.
What's the real case is it's easy in hindsight to say, oh yeah, that was a good move. Oh yeah, that was brilliant. It's a lot harder to say ahead of time.
Got to invent
what's
the future,
Leo. Thing. Inventing the future is not easy. It's not.
Yeah.
If anybody can do it, it's going to be Apple. Absolutely.
And I think that what Apple hopefully learned from the iBook fiasco, which is that they have to seed the market better. And one of the ways to not seed the market is going to people who are already leaders in that market. What the disaster that was iBook was going to Pearson and people who make textbooks and asking them to do examples.
Wouldn't you like to cut your profit margins by 100%?
Home app was the same thing, right? Like they didn't make a home app. They let everybody else make a home app, and it was terrible until they actually made their own home app.
Do you think Apple's very good at learning its lesson? Do you think that's a strength of theirs or not?
It can be. I think that I think that they're going to probably invest pretty heavily in pushing AR if they decide to really roll it out. When it stops becoming a hobby, I think there's going to be a lot of seeding of the market to make sure that it works.
There have been lessons. The trash can Mac was a big lesson. I hope they learned that lesson. That upgradability.
We got a new one.
Yeah, that was a big symptom
plan for the future.
The 2016 MacBook Pro.
And I think it may be heresy to say this, but the HomePods were kind of a lesson. You could build 93 anechoic chambers.
The hi-fi. They didn't learn it. That was the iPod hi-fi lesson.
Same lesson. This time they said, we're going to build so many anechoic chambers that this has to sound the best thing ever, and nobody cared because it was $500, right?
The one thing that I think that, to Alex's point, the one thing that I think is really crucial for Apple to do is they're about to come out with a 120 hertz display. It's not going to be the first one. Nokia had a 120 hertz display in 1812. All our commenters are going to tell us, very, very soon. But when they ship it, it's going to be on 100 million devices, not on, 3 million devices. And developers are going to know that if they update their games to 120 hertz, it'll be on the App Store for all those customers day one to download and buy. And it's going to really, like the same thing with HDR, it's going to push that market forward.
Let's watch what happens with spatial audio, because I like spatial audio, and everybody's very bullish on it. I think it actually is starting to look like it may not be the next big thing in music. Apple can put a lot of energy and a lot of arrows, a lot of wood in those arrows. It doesn't make the world change necessarily.
Well, I think Universal and Warner think it's going to be the next big thing.
Yeah, but they thought 3D movies were the next big thing.
Yeah.
I think Netflix just
the problem
is that
is that right now we're still in the baby steps where people are still learning how to do it. The hardest part is that the music folks doing music Atmos just I feel like don't mix it very well. The people who come out of film understand center channel and so on and so forth, and that's something that is a lot more pleasing to listen to. So I think that we're kind of in that that area where Photoshop came out and suddenly there was all this crazy, crazy designs and everything else. But I will say, I mean, as someone who spends a lot of time listening to spatial. You look at stereo. I still look at stereo and mono as pretty much the same now. Like it's just like it's like this tiny little format, and you get so used to it. But I'm just saying that it as you listen to it more and more, and remember that most of the pop library will all be spatial within the next 6 months. So everything being released is going to be released spatial because of Apple. They're not going to
absolutely, I agree.
And what happens is when you start listening to spatial, your brain doesn't actually absorb it very well, and it just kind of sounds like stereo plus. And then after you get used to it, you'll listen to stereo and you'll go, what is this mud? This is like mud, and I can't figure out, and you can't figure out what it is, and you're like, oh, it's stereo, it's
that's
not
interesting. I have not gotten to that stage yet.
It took me 6 months. Yeah, 6 months before my brain started looking at stereo as like this muddy little thing.
Yeah.
You go back and suddenly your old phone looked like a screen door.
Yeah.
Or when you start looking at HDR, you go back and everything was bland afterwards.
The jury's still out. Yeah. Let's see. Let's talk in a year. We should have a long bet.
I mean, a big thing is that Logic, as promised, if it releases a much easier to use solution for Atmos, it's going to make a big difference.
That's part of the problem right now is there's some expertise required. It's easy to do a bad spatial mix.
But developers are more motivated than studios, Leo. Getting a whole bunch of studios to re-record music is like herding cats. Getting developers who want to be featured day one on the App Store. Yeah, remix it. But getting a bunch of developers who want to be featured on the App Store day one, we've seen that work over and over and over again. Maybe not so much with the Apple Watch because it wasn't a great platform for apps. But if they start getting the first generation of AR apps, they're all going to want to be like James Thompson is going to have that ready 3 days before it launches.
Yeah, he was pissed off. I saw because he said he had a day one feature release for Share. What is it? Share Play.
Share. Of course he did.
Yeah, he said, and there goes another day one release out the window.
But he got the Ted Lasso domain, so I can't feel.
Did he? Oh, good. Was it shortbread.com?
Well, he noticed that there was a domain that they kept advertising on the side of the bleachers, and it didn't go anywhere. So he very quickly redirected it to to Jason Snell's podcast on Ted Lasso.
Yeah, free advertising. Oh, did he? That was nice of him. He could have redirected it to PCalc, but instead he sent it to Jason. That's nice.
Well, he's a guest on it, but it's still nice.
The other thing is that we shouldn't ignore is that the 120 hertz is in every TV that we buy today.
Right.
So it's been in there for a long time, and you don't have to just make games. You can push video out.
I could see people getting just because I tell you what, I was watching an old movie. And HD was starting to look bad. So I could totally see people getting used to high frame rate.
But 120 hertz has been a problem because there's not a lot of games Android has had 120 hertz for years, and a lot of the developers just haven't bothered to do it because they haven't had sufficient. Well, they don't sell as many units. Samsung, I think, makes 10 million of their premium phones. Apple makes 75 million the first quarter.
PlayStation 5 can either do 4K or high frame rate, not both.
So can a Samsung phone usually.
You could do both. I mean, it's just a matter of knowing how much bandwidth you have. I mean, you can definitely do 120 frame per second 4K.
On a PlayStation 5?
Oh, not on PlayStation 5,
That's
but
what
on
I'm
an
saying.
Apple TV.
Yeah, on an Apple TV, you might be able to.
Yeah, but the thing is that what this provides is, I mean, when we talk about
That's
like what Apple may be able to do,
pre-rendered and real-time rendering.
Right, but the main thing here is that Apple can start, like, we'll see what happens. I mean, no one knows, but Apple can start playing a game that no one else can play. When you have the Apple TV, the phones, the iPads, the laptops, everything running at 120, and then you start pushing content out through Apple TV Plus and through games and so on and so forth, when you start to increase all of those things, it's very... nobody else has the pipeline to do that. And that's something that is, you know, and regardless of whether everyone does it or not, everyone's going to be seen as smaller than, you know, like it's the big, it'll be the big show. Because
I agree.
Apple has 75 million distributed devices.
But building
93
individuals studios so that you can tune, you know, Apple can do it.
Yeah, herding cats.
Yeah. You can build it, but that doesn't mean they will come. So, look, Apple's in a great position. I mean, no, that's all you can ever ask for as a company is to create a product people want.
Successful
they want it
for a few years.
And if you want to look at Blackmagic just dropped the price of their 12K camera to $6,000 last week or a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And so you have a $6,000 camera that can capture 120, you know, 8K 120.
Right.
You know, so it is. It's not hard to make the content anymore. And Apple doesn't have to do it with everything. They shouldn't do it with narrative, in my opinion. But the three places that we see it, documentary, experiential, like concerts, and horror, you know, are the ones that
horror. I'm still out on. The jury's still out on that one.
I gotta tell you, I've seen an example of it.
Okay, it's scary, huh?
I won't watch it. Like I won't watch a horror film.
It makes Alex fade out. That's why he disappears from the background.
Yeah, I was like, I don't.
To your point,
it's too much for me.
To your point, Alex, today Apple got 83 patents from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Today, 83 patents on things like scanning 3D models, virtual parallax, and Apple Maps look around.
That's a bit much.
83.
A laptop with two screens, including a simulated keyboard again.
Yeah.
How many patents do they? How many speedboats can they water ski behind?
Multimodal, three-dimensional object detection, virtual parallax, graphical interfaces for system-wide behavior for 3D models, manipulation of virtual objects using a tracked physical object.
Yeah, it sounds like just a hobby to me.
Look at this.
I don't think they think it's going to go anywhere.
One day.
We'll see, test the water.
Alex Lindsay.
One day. They're cranking it out. Yep. Let's take a little break. We're talking high tech. We're talking the latest and greatest.
Can we talk about the letter after, Leo? After the break?
Which letter?
The letter from Ryan Reynolds and
yes, shortbread recipes on their way to all. Yes, we could talk about that in the whole. There's actually a lot. In fact, we haven't even gotten to the rumors about the Mac Mini yet. We'll get to that in a second. To me, it all comes down to one thing: how did I sleep last night? And I tell you, if you want a good night's sleep, you got to get a Casper. Our show today brought to you by Casper Mattresses. Love your tomorrow with Casper. I shouldn't just say mattresses because it's a whole lot more. The new Casper Cooling Collection has everything you need to help you sleep cool all night. Of course, the Casper mattresses with the new snow technology. They keep you cool for 12 plus hours, pulling heat away from your body for sustained temperature regulation and a cool to the touch feeling and a much improved tomorrow. I don't know how to convince somebody who doesn't know this yet, but it is a big difference, sleeping cool versus sleeping hot. It's a huge difference in the quality of your sleep. Then there's the Hyper Light sheets. Better bedding makes for a better tomorrow. Casper's Hyper Light sheets are designed with an innovative grid weave, or as I call it, an integrative weave. An innovative grid weave that lets air flow through for maximum breathability. They even make things like lightweight duvets. You still get that plush comfort, but also optimal temperature control. And of course, if you've got a great mattress, you need Casper's Breathable Mattress Protector, which improves the coolness of the bed even further by allowing air to flow between your body and your mattress. It all works to keep you cool at night because cooler sleep means better sleep, and better sleep means better tomorrows. We love our Caspers. As always, Casper offers free shipping and free returns. We're huge fans of our Casper everything. When my daughter got her new apartment, we celebrated. I got her a Casper foundation, a Casper frame, a Casper mattress, a Casper bedding, Casper pillows. She's all Casper all the time. And the Casper Cooling Collection is awesome. Focus on tomorrow. Let Casper handle the rest. When it comes to a better night's sleep, Casper's new cooling collection has you covered. Explore Casper products, their mattresses, their sheets, their pillows, a whole lot more at Casper, casper.com/MacBreak. casper.com/MacBreak. And by the way, we got a great deal, $100 off select mattresses if you use the offer code MacBreak. That's MacBreak, MacBreak, for $100 off select mattresses. Casper.com/MacBreak. Offer code MacBreak. Exclusions apply. See Casper.com for more details. Thank you, Casper. Tim Cook is going to Washington once again. He
will not talk to Elon Musk. They will not have a single conversation. They will never speak.
F you, Tim, F you. Apple's Tim Cook, Microsoft's Satya Nadella. The new guy, Andy Jassy from Amazon, apparently will be going to the White House on Wednesday to discuss improving cybersecurity. Sure, you want to improve cybersecurity, get these CEOs from these companies sitting around a table coming up with new strategies.
They do nothing but agree on that.
You call the guy from Pegasus and you ask him to stop. Just ask him to stop. Just
please.
call him. Ask him to stop with the Pegasus.
Yeah, I mean, it's a photo op. They'll also be. IBM was sending CEO Southern Company, J.P. Morgan and Chase and Company. Of course, the thing that's terrifying people these days is ransomware.
You think they're going to ask J.P. Morgan and Chase why they killed OnlyFans? You think that will come up on the agenda?
It's your fault. I love that OnlyFans.
Why did you kill OnlyFans?
It's your fault.
Sir, you're on camera, sir.
Oh, there was a great. I wish I could remember. There was a great tweet about OnlyFans, but I can't remember. Oh, well, I'll come up with it. I'll find it, then I'll read it to you.
Their CEO just dunked on J.P. Morgan and Chase for killing his business.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's clear that it's the credit card companies who don't want the liability, and they're changing their policies, and that means no more porn on OnlyFans, which,
Well, they're still nudity, still video, still. I think they're drawing a line at a certain, without judging anybody, what many people would consider the extreme level of porn that would find the good people at Visa and MasterCard and the Diners Club taking offense and saying, no, we're not going to process payments for that. God, no.
Yeah.
My advice to Tim is that don't say, hey, wow, they moved that potted plants from when all my meetings with Trump. Hey.
You think Biden will call him Tim Apple? I would like that. I think we should just preserve that. Let's see. What else?
Sorry that I'm not a...
There are some issues I'm sure that Tim would like to bring up with Biden. One is, of course, Congress's move to break the monopoly on the App Store. Apparently, there's some real fear that this is going to happen first in South Korea.
Yeah, like this week, right?
Any minute now. South Korea, of course, the home of Samsung.
But they're calling it an anti-Google law, which is the funniest thing. Like it's like Google can't catch a break. It's like they're like the most open, but they're the most targeted at the same time.
South Korean legislation will be the first law in the world to require companies that operate app stores to let users pay for in-app purchases using a variety of payment systems. It would also prohibit something that Apple does do, which is blocking developers from listing their products on other app stores. Apple has all sorts of rules about developers. In fact, the other day I saw an app that said, and I wonder how long they're going to get away with this. It's a new to-do app called Tweak.so. And when you go to I'm sure this is against the rules for Apple. When you go to the premium thing, it says, go to our website. It says, please use the browser version to find out about Tweak Premium. They don't want you to buy it through the app and give Apple the 30%. I think Apple prohibits that, don't they? This is pushing.
They do, but I saw this interesting report, like I don't think it's been made public yet, but that even when you overcharge, like when you add Apple's cut to your in-app purchase price, people will still do it because they trust Apple.
Yeah.
It's convenient for them because their credit card's already on file, and it's easy. They'll have to do is hold the button down. So people still convert massively, even if there's a surcharge to use the Apple version, which blows my mind.
So in that case, it's not a detriment to the company; it's a detriment to users who are paying 30%. But I'm sure Alex will say this: we're paying 30% for the convenience. It's a convenience fee.
like Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Ticketmaster.
Oh my God.
I won't do it. I won't.
Oh my God.
I won't.
Sorry.
I won't buy anything on those things anymore. I mean, there's a handful of them that I bought in the past, but
On a
at this point,
third-party store, you mean?
yeah, I mean, I like the thing is that I will like I have Netflix and a couple other ones, but now if I hit something in it on my Apple TV or my phone and it says you now need to sign up on the web,
Just won't do it.
Like
Yeah.
I just won't do it. Like I'm just and because the problem is that for subscriptions I can't manage them.
Pain in the butt.
So
yeah.
it's a pain. I don't want to. I either care. And so I think that and I think people are going to be more like that. I mean, I think that the more I think about it, the less I think this is going to be really impactful, because I think that users are going to get, as soon as companies do what they're going to do, if this happens, people will turn against it really quickly. Like a large number of people will take a pretty ardent, like I don't want to play that anymore, because it's going to be chaos. It's going to be chaos for the user, because you can already see it, like with these apps that you have to put your email in, and you have to now put a thing in. They're going to send you a code, and all that stuff is a pain. And so the thing is that people are not going to. They're not going to enjoy it when it happens all the time. They're put up with it when it's here and there, but when it happens all the time, they're going to be mad.
I would submit you are not sensitive, perhaps, to the difference, nor am I, to the difference of 30%. But there are plenty of people who say, that 30% is not an insignificant amount of money, and I would prefer to save the 30% and deal with the inconvenience. You and I are saying, well, it's a couple of bucks, who cares? Not everybody says that.
No, not everybody says that. It's just that the question is there enough of them to be angry?
Yeah.
And the thing is that you can focus.
Security. I keep getting my card stolen.
Yeah, and Alex, you raised a great point. The subscription management is so much easier on Apple when you don't want something anymore. You just cancel the subscription.
Right.
I have to say that's an excellent.
I can't even remember which ones I'm subscribed to and which I'm not, and everything else.
Only
and so
Apple has that list. Yeah.
Right.
It's the same reason I prefer to download apps on the Mac from the App Store, because it keeps them up to date. I know what I got. It's easier.
It has to be really good at this point. If it's under $100, if it's over $100, I go, oh, there's some app that I might want. But under $100, it has to be amazing for me to get to go outside of the App Store. Because the problem is, when I get a new computer, this is what really hits it for me, is when I get a new computer, I immediately
so easy.
I update everything, and everything's on it, and I don't have to think about it, and that ease of use
is good for America? It's good for Alex, but is it good for America?
I think it's more, is it good for Apple users? I don't know if Apple users have to think about America, but are the users?
Well, that's the problem. Apple users aren't thinking about America.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I do think it's something that Apple is just going to have to figure out how to assimilate into how they run the App Store, or how they run their business. The momentum behind this is so huge at this point that it's hard to imagine Apple arguing their way out of this. Now, the only thing they could do, I think, at this point is negotiate their way or influence their way into a version of allowing other apps to exist on their device in a way that they at least find palatable, if not ideal. I agree with everything that you've said. I think having a curated app store as the exclusive location of apps, source of apps for these devices is the best case for almost every user out there. I'm not sure that it means that it should be the one way of doing it to the exclusion of all others for every user. But the thing is, there's way too bad of a paper trail left behind. Again, Epic, it was a bad lawsuit. It was a bad gamble. They were destined to lose. But oh my God, the amount of documents shaken loose from Apple and Google saying that we are absolutely hosed if we allow any third party to install apps. We've done our own we've done our own calculations saying that this could cost us as much as $6 billion a year. It is absolute in Google's case particularly. It's essential that we cut deals with Samsung and Sony and everybody else to make sure that they don't allow this on their devices. It's like all they got to do is wave this piece of paper in front of them at any sort of a Senate tribunal, and they're like, actually, we do have some movement on this. We're willing to negotiate. It's hard for them to make the case that it's hard for them to be in public and saying, we feel as though to protect our users and the internet as a whole, we have to hold firm on this. Meanwhile, in their own memos, they're saying, oh my God, we will only be able to have like a spaceship campus the shape of a letter C, not a letter O, because we won't have enough money to close the gap if we allow third-party apps. We have to fight this.
So they're fighting it in Korea. And actually, there's an interesting question posed by the New York Times. Will the U.S. government, will the Biden administration defend Apple against the South Korean government? Because that's good for America. At the same time as the U.S. Congress is attempting the same thing in the U.S.
Will they let the Samsung store win?
It hasn't passed yet. Number one.
Well, it's very close to, not in the United States. It's very close to passing in Korea, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, will they defend Apple in Korea but fight them in the U.S.?
Well, that's the question. Yes.
It's technically their job to do that.
Right.
Defend American companies. So if they don't defend it, they're actually not doing their job. Because it's a act that's targeting American companies. So it's so it would be them not fulfilling their duties if they don't defend Apple in that area.
New York Times says how the White House responds to this proposal poses an early test for the Biden administration. Will it defend tech companies facing antitrust scrutiny abroad while it applies that same scrutiny to the companies at home?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
It will.
Well, we hope so. We'd hope that they would find some
if
version
somebody's going to regulate
of
us, it's going to be us.
They might be jerks, but there are jerks, Leo. That's how that whole thing works. Like you can fight in the family, but you don't fight out the family.
Right.
Okay. But that also illustrates the problem that they're going to be facing internationally. Because think of it from the point of view of South Korea. They're saying, well, it's not in our country's and our industry's best interest that citizens of South Korea operate a phone that they purchased in South Korea that was largely manufactured in South Korea. They buy an app from developers who might be based in South Korea. The money goes to California, and some of the money comes back to the developer in South Korea. Why do we not have a situation where at least if there are developers who are located here, we can create an alternative app store so that all of the money stays in this country instead of having to shovel it into and help out the United States economy? That's where they're going to be fighting a very, very long and hard fight.
Again, the New York Times, American officials have echoed some of the industry's complaints about the proposal, saying in a March report it appeared to target American companies, but U.S. trade officials have yet to take a formal position on it, said Adam Hodge, a spokesperson for the United States Trade Representative. He said officials are still considering how to balance the claim that the legislation discriminates against American companies with the belief among tech critics in South Korea and America that the legislation would level the playing field. Oh, boy. We are engaging a range of stakeholders to gather facts, said Mr. Hodge.
Yeah. It's interesting because Benedict Evans had a really good article about this. I don't know if it was this week or last week, but I just saw Ben Beher. All the Bens are really good analysts. The analyst's name is Ben. They're just really good. About we're spending an enormous amount of time arguing about this, where all evidence shows that it will almost never be a mainstream feature. Like it could be enabled, and a very, very small amount of people will use it. And that doesn't mean it's not worth fighting for, but it is worth contextualizing in whether you do the math and how much it'll cost Apple or how much it'll help users. It is a very nerdy feature.
Yeah, I mean, Google for a long time has had this, in the settings you can do this. And I think most people don't because it's just for the same reason they don't on Apple or they wouldn't on Apple. I think you're right. I think the vast majority, it's the tyranny of the default, are always going to just do what they're doing now.
Yeah, I don't think it's an either or proposition. I think it's that my position on a lot of things is that if you have the opportunity to have an imperfect system that gives people choice or an imperfect system that doesn't give people choice, allow the imperfect system that gives people choice. I don't think it'll be the downfall of security on of the internet or on all iPhones. I don't think it'll be the downfall of the simplicity of installing apps on the iPhone or any other device. I think that it will be something that is very, very easily accommodated, and just like it was possible to jailbreak phones easily for a long time, and people didn't jailbreak phones because really, it was very quickly there was no reason to do so. It was something to show off at a party and say, hey, look, I've got see how I've got a boot screen that's different from the Apple logo. Well, it took me 3 days and 2 brick devices to get that, but I've got it now because I've got an unlocked device.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
I think that the first large company that tries to force everybody to go outside of this. I mean, Epic might get away with it, but because they've got a bunch of game players that want to play it or whatever. But I think if it starts to become more than a couple big companies that do it, I think the backlash from the users will be much more intense to the point where it's intolerable.
Right? What about Amazon? Because I think, Apple must have seen Amazon as a threat because they've made a side deal with Amazon, apparently, because you can now buy stuff. They're getting a deal, I think, through Apple. It's unclear, but it looks like they're getting a deal.
That's business, though. I mean, like the bigger your supply, like Walmart does that for big suppliers, too. That's just like complete natural course of business. But that's the point, is that Amazon was so big that if Amazon decided to bypass,
and we have
be problematic.
Maybe, but
I didn't buy any Kindle. I hate buying Kindle books on the web, and then so I can read them in my Kindle reader on the
same.
iPad. That's annoying.
Yeah, the problem is, like Andy said, the users the users don't get prioritized. It's whether it's good for Apple or good for Amazon. But I want what's good for me.
Right.
That's what I want.
Right.
It's a tough thing to say that Apple will treat you more fairly if you are in a position to hurt them. If you have no power over them, then you just simply have to take terms that Apple dictates towards you.
Welcome to real life, though.
But we're talking about for probably 90% of the developers, even the ones that are a little upset about this whole thing, they're not going to do anything. They're just going to keep pushing things into the App Store, because for 98% of them, they make less than $1 million, so they're only giving up 15%. Well, it's not, this 30% is a rich man's game. The genius of that
move on Apple's part is they gave up very little money and appealed to 95% of the developers who are under $1 million, while almost all the money they make comes from the whales that are more than $1 million.
And again, they made that change only when they started feeling pressure. Once they had once in their position where they could get hurt by not making a change, they made a change. They didn't decide that, hey, wait a minute, we just did a quick spreadsheet and realized that we could actually let the small developers have more money without it really affecting our bottom line. No, they had to be really forced against the wall and see the approaching dawn and the hoofbeats of the Riders of Death approaching, saying that, oh, you know what? I'll tell you what. We were going to do this anyway, we swear. The fact that this is all the emails about this are dated no earlier than 18 hours ago, but hey, we just made a change.
Apple's
to our
probably going to make some more concessions, you think?
Yeah. Definitely,
they're going to have.
They're only in a position now where they can, every big, whether it's Google, whether it's Apple, whoever, they're only in a position now where they can negotiate the best life for themselves inside this new reality. I don't think they can change what's coming.
There's probably a list on Tim Cook's desk of like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, the concessions that they're willing to make. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Alex.
No, in the United States, we still have a court. So there's a long. I don't think this is going to get passed and then just go, okay, it's going to go into. I think they'll be probably spend a little time in the court system, which currently is not favoring, probably won't favor this type of law. So I think that it would, at the top at least. So I think that it would be is probably not now in Europe and obviously in South Korea. That's a whole other thing because they have different set of rules.
Well, but remember that the FTC has asserted that it has a lot of power using its existing laws and existing mandate that doesn't necessarily need.
It's asserted it, but it hasn't been tested. So the thing is,
you can still appeal in court.
That doesn't. So that doesn't mean that things are going to get tied. I'm saying it's not as simple as, oh, well, they'll just appeal it and we'll hope that we'll take our risk in the court. There is a temperature change happening. This isn't just one buckaroo who's got a bug up their butt for antitrust for the App Store. The fact that this is happening everywhere all at once means that
I think it's unclear what
thing for Apple to think that they can fight all this.
I think it's also unclear what courts are going to do. I have to say, though, the FTC has to do a better job than they have in the against the Facebook because
they've
done a bad job and they've come back with an even worse.
But can I also be like a little bit disappointed with the companies themselves? Because again, like I don't care about Apple or Amazon or Facebook or the government. I care about me. And I feel like a lot of these companies, if they weren't just quite so arrogant about their, like, yes, you were hugely successful, but you didn't have to strut. You didn't have to make yourself such a big target. You could have quietly done a few concessions, more concessions over the years when it wasn't quite so fraught or fought, and just cut a lot of this, like remove the high ground from a lot of these arguments.
I think your point is the best point of all. What about us? What's right? What's the best for the end user? Not what's best for Amazon, Epic, Google, or Apple, but
and
what's
not necessarily
right for
the Twitter user, but like the actual mainstream.
The real users. What's best for real users?
For 99% of the users, a closed system is better. 99%. For 1%, it's not. They want something else. For 99%, a closed system that just works, that's safe, that is easy to order, easy to run.
Short term, I agree. I think long term, and it's hard to see. I know it's hard to see long term, but I think short term, a monoculture closed system is not in everybody's interest.
Xbox and a gaming PC.
Hard to see.
You don't have to make everything like you don't have to make everything an Xbox and everything a PC. Yeah. Like we can have both.
Right.
Might I also point out that there are tens of millions, or if not hundreds of millions of iPhone users out there. 1% of 100 million is a lot of people who can't do the things they want to do.
Right.
So I'm not flat out disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that there's, as I said, this is why I tend to err on the side of more power as opposed to just lock it down for reasons that they can't really. If they've been naughty according to their own internal discussions on the matter, that is all the more reason to say, you know what, we're going to try it this other way. And
we're just weighing a handful of rich companies against 99% of the users. I mean, that's what we're talking about right now. Is a handful of rich companies, billionaires mostly, and against everybody.
Well, there's
and when I say 99, I'm being super conservative because it's probably 99.99999%.
Maybe it is, but there is a legitimate third position. Which is that things should be more open. And I agree that it's fine to have a closed platform for people like you, Alex.
I just want it to work. I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be complicated.
No, I know.
Philip Elmer DeWitt had this really cheeky suggestion.
I don't think it will be complicated. I think that we can have. I think we can have both.
I think
Elmer DeWitt had this really cheeky suggestion from one of his readers today, which was let Apple make a vanilla Android that if you want to sideload, you just replace iOS with vanilla Android on your phone, and you can run Android apps instead.
Oh, they could do that. Hilarious. Call it like iOS Blue or something, and say, well, if you really want to, we have this very insecure, poor privacy variant. You could use it.
We store your credit card in plain text, but you could use it.
You could use it. That's an interesting point of view.
We're using the open source version of Android 2.7. Enjoy Cupcake without Google Maps, without the Play Store, without anything.
And that was another good point, Renee, which was there's room for both. There's room for a PlayStation and there's room for a PC.
But we have that. We have Apple and Android.
Right.
Like Apple's still not a majority stakeholder in the world market, and just barely 50%.
I wish we had more than just Apple and Android. I mean, there are some third party. It's hard to do. Yeah, there aren't really many.
Just give me WebOS back. I'll be happy. But that's I think why Google's getting in more trouble with these stuff, and it's counterintuitive because you think they're more open. So why are they getting in more trouble? And a lot of the arguments being made against Google is because you're more open, therefore it is more egregious when you are controlling.
Yeah, they're the anti-Apple, so you should at least be
because with
open.
Games. They're very different. Like they're very similar to Apple when it comes to games because games make so much money and money is just so corrosive.
Yeah. It is a pretty big slap in the face when they're saying no, we actually have this feature baked right in. We're just going to pay off phone manufacturers and app manufacturers not to take advantage of this feature that is supposed to be a hallmark feature of Android openness.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? You're sit in the corner. Think about what you did. Think about what you're going to offer the nice men and women. Yeah.
I bought one of those Pine phones, hoping that there'd be a decent Linux alternative. It's not there yet, but there's.
Is this the year of hand-top Linux?
Well, in a way, that's what Android is. But I think I would love to see an open source phone and see what they could do. I mean, I know what they could do so far. Let's get it better, and maybe there would be a third open choice. That would be kind of interesting.
Yeah. Unfortunately, all the bugs of all the things that people all the things that we're complaining about iOS and Android are actual features for all the companies that make money off of apps, whether they're free apps like Facebook or whether they're paid apps, and none of those things work. Again, I have a couple of open source operating systems on a couple of older phones, and they're great so long as you don't ever need to hail a ride, so long as you don't ever need to order food
or
bank
all the stuff
that makes
online.
This thing really, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Bad news, well, maybe not bad news, but at least details of this Pegasus issue. More information coming from the University of Toronto's Monk School about how Pegasus works, and in fact, a specific example of how this spyware technology from the NSO group was used against opponents of the regime in Bahrain. Yeah. They found 9 Bahraini activists whose phones were hacked with Pegasus between June 2020 and February of this year. Some of them were hacked with a zero-click attack that bypassed blast door that Apple was using to protect, and that's of course a real cause for concern. The other cause for concern is you can make it a pretty strong case that the NSO group says, well, we only sell this to responsible governments. Well, maybe this isn't
Bahrain, not the top of the list.
Not the top of the list. And the people they're using to attack with this, journalists and activists, probably deserve a little bit more.
And my understanding is that this was stuff that was not yet inside. Like it does go through Blastdoor because the stuff that it's attacking is not completely secured by Blastdoor, but that's part of the ongoing process of Blastdoorifying more and more content types in iMessage.
All of these attacks are multi-layered. You get in one part and then another part, but they call it forced entry. And this is a great piece because they have logs, the crash logs and so forth. These activists were able to get their phones to the Monk School and they were able to really analyze the logs. Google deletes the logs, so we don't know exactly what's happening on Android devices, but we have a much better idea of what's going on.
Yeah. The saving grace at this point is just that these kind of 0 days on the iPhone are so valuable that the only people who can afford them are state governments. And when it comes to the point where anybody with $500 and who can do a Bitcoin transaction and knows how to find things on the dark web can get a trace on any phone that they have a phone number for, that's when things go straight to hell.
Yeah. They even have samples of...
There is that it's...
Go ahead.
I was going to say they don't want to burn those exploits. That's why they're so valuable.
Right, exactly,
because if they get wide, then people fix them, and they don't want them to be fixed. So they're incredibly strategic in how they apply them.
Right. Yeah. There's some really good examples in the piece from citizenlab.ca showing the texts describing how it happened, who was attacked. I think it's really a fascinating read. It's just recommended. And we're not, unless you're a political dissident or a journalist, you're probably okay.
There's every reason to believe NSA and like the 5 eyes, 6 eyes. I forget how many eyes we have now, but they all have. They don't need Pegasus because they have their own capabilities in this area. Yeah. It's not that they won't sell it to them. It's just they don't need it.
If anything, the bottom line is don't assume that any device that you carry is 100% secure.
If you're not a huge target either, don't stress over.
Don't stress over it.
Some people read this and they become incredibly anxious about this. And if you're not someone that a government's willing to burn a lot of money and exploits on, then you don't have to stay up at night.
And one good thing that's coming out of all of this, I'm glad that Apple's communication relationship with its users is not treating them like infants like they used to, where they're no longer putting out, this is the one platform that's safe and secure and can't be, there are kinds of viruses and malware and all kinds of exploits on all other devices, but not on iPhone. You're safe with us, even though that was really never the case, and it was a hard thing to defend. You have to be honest and open with your users about exactly what the vulnerabilities of their device are. Don't scare them, but always make sure that they know the status of the vehicle that they're operating.
Apple says, actually, it's an analyst.
Before we move on, there was another report. People have to be careful about this. The Los Angeles Times is reporting that a man in Los Angeles managed to, I forget the number now, he hacked his way into thousands of iCloud accounts to try to steal nude images of people, and he did it by posing as an Apple support person. And this is happening on YouTube accounts as well. Like, people are posing as customer support, chatting, asking people for their passwords. And just a reminder, no real company is ever going to contact you and ask you for this information. They're never going to try to get into your account, never going to ask for access to your account, never give anyone information on your account, because it's never for legitimate purposes.
Yeah. Also, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably pretty savvy as it is. So take advantage of your savviness and the fact that people who are not quite as clued in as you trust you. And when you visit your friends and family who just trust things to work and have lots of faith in people that haven't been burned off by cynicism and mistrust like we have, tell them about this sort of stuff. That there are ways that if you think that Apple is telling you that they've compromised your account, there are ways to contact Apple directly and make sure that hasn't happened, even though there's almost no chance that will ever have happened.
They're super smart now. Like a bunch of really high-profile YouTube accounts got hacked because someone went to Google Chat, sent a link from Google Chat, which therefore gets sent through a Google relay. So it shows up as a Google email with a Google link. And when you click on it, the chat person says, "Hi, I'm YouTube support. You've got double AdSense accounts. We're going to shut you down unless you resolve this immediately." And you start to panic, and then they trick you into deleting your account. So like you cannot be careful enough with this stuff.
Analyst says, you don't have to worry about the chipset shortage. Apple, the chipset shortage now affects everybody but Apple. There are plenty of iPhones to go around. This comes from Wave 7 Research. Sources have told Wave 7 Research Apple was able to lock down, we've known this for a while, but this confirms it, lock down chipset supply, say that 5 times fast, chipset supply well ahead of time. Unlike other OEMs, Samsung and OnePlus are particularly hard hit. The shortage is uneven by carrier channel, even by store. AT&T least affected, but only because AT&T has the most iPhone-heavy customer base.
Yeah.
It seems to be getting worse and worse. I mean, everything that we've talked to, almost everyone except for Apple is going to have increasing trouble through next year.
Why worse? What's going on?
There's a huge backup in just the availability of even storage containers, as well as just a perfect storm. So there's the AKM fire, which caused a bunch of other problems. There's been a couple other fires that have put a pinch on a bunch of chipsets. Then there is shipping backups. Then there's COVID, and COVID keeps on going up and down. And it's not any one thing. It's just but it's something that everyone that I'm talking to that are in that chain, and I'm talking to a couple folks that are impacted pretty heavily, are literally not releasing products or adjusting their products that they do release to go around the chips that they don't have, because it's the worst that anybody that I've talked to has ever seen, as far as the shortage goes, and they don't expect it to get better until second half of 2022.
Yeah. Wow. All right, let's talk about a few new things, happy things, positive things. Rumor Central, Mark Gurman says there will be a high-end M1X Mac Mini, new designs and
I knew it.
Additional ports.
I bought 2.
Of course. Dagnabbit. And but all he says in the next several months. I don't know how soon that is.
Probably. Here's the best. October? The best thing about Mac Minis is they never go. You never stop using them. I have a Mac Mini over here. The one that's sitting under the brand new 16 gig one that I got after Andy showed the thing about the photogrammetry. Not that I'm bitter. Anyway, the one sitting underneath it is from 2012, and it's running some controller software for me right now, and they just never go away. And they have a bunch of I/O in the back. They're easy to the rack mount. They're easy. I don't feel bad about buying them because I'm like, I know I'll use them for the next decade. It's a really odd thing.
Although that was the one thing wrong with the M1 Mac Minis was lack of ports.
Yeah.
Well, they got a lot of ports.
They got enough ports. As long as you have
I got way more than my iMac.
Yeah.
No, I'm totally with you. I mean, I'm probably the biggest cheapskate on this panel, but if there is a really good M1X Mac Mini coming out in the next few months, I will almost certainly buy it. Even though on my long range game plan has always been I'm waiting for a super powerful like Mini Mac Pro, something that is like really high end powerful for a lot of stuff I want to do. But just as you say, it's like there will always be a place. It's like occasional situational lighting. It's like this desk lamp. When I'm done with it, I will find another place for it. I can always use lighting elsewhere in the house. So just I will buy the M1X. The M1X will become like my podcasting streaming computer. When I get the Mac, hopefully the Mini Mac Pro, like in 2022, 2023, that will become like the M1X will probably become like my Plex server, my media server, or it'll just become something that lives underneath a spare machine. It is the sleeper Mac of the entire lineup. It is the one thing that it will never really date. It will never become useless. It will never be moldering on the tree. It will never be repurposed as a hot plate or as a knickknack for the shelf, because you can always do something with it.
I think a lot of us were very worried that they weren't going to update it. It wasn't going to get any better. Like it sat there for a long time, and now, it's really become an exciting product again.
Yeah, I loved a couple of years. Was it 3 years ago at the Brooklyn Opera House, where this was they still didn't have like a new Mac Pro to show off, so they really just rolled out, here is your Pro workstation, a stack of Mac Minis that are maxed out, that are but they made such a compelling argument that it's very, very tidy. It's something that you can redeploy. Again, it's like if you buy 10 for your computer, 10 for your office, you can just deploy them where they need to go without having to think about whether or not does this person need a 24-inch screen, does this person need 80 cores and a tower. Anyway, it is my favorite Mac of the entire lineup, and it's the one that I would love to put more money into.
And literally, I have an iMac right now in front of me. That's my older iMac, and I'm replacing it with the 16 gig M1 that Andy got me to buy. Anyway, but I'm going to have two screens that I'm going to have on either side here. And what's great about it is I'll have those screens, and now I can kind of route whatever I want. The iMac will still be available, but it's not, but I'm able to replace it, and I have just so much more flexibility. I mean, someone was asking me whether I was going to get the iMac or the Mac Mini, and at this point I'm just getting Mac Minis because the iMac is cool, but I'd rather have all the flexibility and more I/O and more compatibility and being able to rack them and everything else. It's just an amazing little product.
Yeah. Is there the M1 has a little bit of an issue with multiple monitors, like you have to kind of play some games to get two monitors. Is that right?
It's not two. I think it's I can't remember whether it's three or more, but it's two. Two is fine.
The M1 supports two displays. If you've got like a MacBook Pro, one of them is the internal display. The second one is the external display.
It's for the laptops. That's an issue. That's right. Okay. So it's more than
putting a third one, right? Yeah, so putting any sort of a third display.
But presumably an M1X would solve that. I would hope.
Yeah.
And there's some breakouts that can get you up to 6. 6 outputs from the Mac Mini. Yeah, they're like little HDMI breakouts that can be used for that.
Yeah. Okay, but I'm suddenly trying to remember if here's how bad my memory is today. I can't remember what's the name of that really great feature they demoed for the next version of Mac OS that lets you just simply put an iPad screen next to your iMac screen, and your mouse pointer just simply moves from one display to the other and turns into a different controller. I don't know what the name of the.
Renee knows the name of that. Renee, what is the name of that technology?
It's universal control, and the way it's currently implemented is you can have a Mac control up to 2 other iPads or Macs. So Andy could have his one Mac and then 2 other Macs, one Mac and an iPad and a Mac, one Mac and 2 iPads, and then you just control them all with that Mac's keyboard.
And you can drag around files. Yeah. I love that. I can't wait. That's going to be so cool.
You can even make permanent setups. So like if that's all you want to do, Andy, you can have that set up in settings, so you don't have to do that little I'm dragging the cursor along, wait for a second for it to break the membrane and go in. You can just say remember this layout and switch to it when I want it to.
Yeah, that's really nice.
No, that is such an ideal situation for a lot of like what I do. Like oftentimes I'm doing like a really big like video transcode, and it would be great if I have like my video transcoding tools just in a window that's in my setup. I have no idea, no particular awareness that this app happens to be running on its own dedicated machine. And I just, by virtue of the fact that I moved the mouse pointer into there and press this go button, it all worked. But I want to be able to put a raw potato on the middle of my desk, and it just like slowly cooks because of all the screens I've got like pivoted. That's what I want. That's the dream. That's the aspiration.
All right. There was no news this week.
That's my tech problem today.
You have a raw potato?
Degrees.
You're broadcasting from a raw potato?
No, it's 33 degrees, and I turned the air conditioning off for the show, and I wonder if my tech is
everything's overheating.
It's just fully cooking on the table.
Oh my God! Yes. Turn the AC on. It's okay with me. We're going to run through the Apple TV news. There's a bunch of it.
Can I just quickly tell you that it got so hot that I went into like my living room and got the unboxed like fan that I bought like 3 weeks ago. To put underneath the desk. It was like, no, I bet during the Casper ad I can get this, unbox it, plug it in, and get some relief.
So you survived Henri. My mom did too. No power outage for her. Did you have a power outage?
No, as a matter of fact, I missed it. I missed a power outage by like half a block.
Yeah.
Because and the thing is, like I do live right in the middle of a downtown, and on my building, no joke, there was in 1930 there was a huge hurricane in Rhode Island that was like the legendary one that cost a lot of lives.
I remember.
Property.
I was a kid at the time. Yeah.
well, no, not this one.
No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Okay, sorry. Because I'm about to say that on my building there was actually like a bronze plaque with a line that comes up to my waist. Here's where the high water line. Yeah. So as a result, like I've told you that I live in like what is the downtown area of a touristy village, because I know like most of the business owners and most of them live like a 10 or 20 minute drive away. I kept getting DMs all day saying, "Is my business flooded out?" And I said, "Dude, I'm looking at your business right now. There is someone walking a Yorkshire Terrier, and he's piddling on your front steps. That's the only damage that your store is up in right now."
It was a Category 5 hurricane in 1938, referred to as the Great New England Hurricane. They didn't have ladies' names at the time. Yeah. The Great Colonial Hurricane.
In all of New England, just like I'm sure in other parts of the country, there's always that one storm that in a certain region is known as the big hurricane.
The big one. Where were you during the big one? When we were still having trouble with Renee. He's frozen again. When we were sailing down the Rhine, almost every town on the Rhine has those marks on the building. The river got this high in 16, but usually it's like 1638. The water got up to here.
Yeah,
it's kind of amazing.
I was going up. The winds got pretty high. The rain got pretty bad, but wasn't so bad that I couldn't like take a look-see out like once an hour or so. So I was going out, taking a picture of like the water level in the canal to keep people can know exactly where the water was going. And it was like I'm sure that like I haven't been out like getting like my usual takeout orders, but I'm sure I'm going to get a free sub from this one place, free breakfast sandwich from this other place. Oh, thank you so much. We're so worried.
Gosh, I never heard of this 1938 hurricane. I must have when I was a kid.
Yeah, it was
160 mile an hour winds at its peak.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
And we were worried because we were like right in one of the storm tracks, like only a day before it made landfall. We were like right in the throat of landfall. So if it become a hurricane, it would have been. Yeah. But fortunately, there was one down in my neighborhood. There was one down power line that blacked out. Not my half of the neighborhood, fortunately, but the other half of the neighborhood. It was the only disadvantage of having a UPS is that you know exactly like when things are getting a little bit shaky. Because I was streaming, I was watching TV. Like the stream was fine, the TV was fine, the audio was fine. But in the office, on the other side of the door, I could hear click, 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 click of the UPS deciding whether it's time to switch over or not.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was fine.
Our internet went out last night, and I'm really dependent on the internet. I just sat on the couch staring into space.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what to do. What should I do?
Was Lisa like, read a book?
Lisa left.
I know, after we lost power for twice. We lost power twice in a week, and I put a big UPS on my my router. Yeah. I was like, enough of this. I can now last 6 hours without power. You know, and I'm getting generators to make sure that never.
We have two Tesla batteries. I'm going to get a third. We can go all day, and then the sun charges them back up. So, in theory, But when the internet goes out, ain't no battery for that.
Yeah. No, it's like being in solitary confinement for the for the modern era.
Oh my God!
I have actually been thinking about buying one of those big like Jackery like battery boosters the size of like of a Coleman cooler. Yeah, because I'm like, it would be nice to have 6 hours of power that I can actually use.
Those Tesla power walls, they're amazing. They're basically a Tesla, the battery pack from a Tesla.
Yeah. But to your point, it was I did have this very weird moment, like as I was doing storm prep, thinking that like I'm young enough to remember. Okay, so like with my dad. Okay, so we're gonna make sure that we cut off the pilot light to this, so it doesn't. We're gonna have to make sure that we get in Baghdad. And I was thinking that it's the morning before it's gonna hit. I got to make sure that I get out my iPad Pro, download every episode of Ted Lasso I haven't seen, so that if I lose power, I can still binge watch something.
That's the problem. The internet, you get no warning. The internet goes out, and you didn't download the episodes, and now you're just staring into space for 3 hours.
I'm not sure that my immigrant grandparents would understand exactly what I define as suffering during a big
build
crisis.
some furniture. What are you doing? You're sitting there. Anyway, let's continue on. I think we got Renee. I think.
While we still have Renee.
We still have Renee. Apple TV stories, bunch of them. Bunch of them. T-Mobile is offering, just in the nick of time, now that I've got the message from T-Mobile saying, yeah, all your information's compromised. But on the bright side, you're getting a free year of Apple TV Plus starting Wednesday.
Getting Morning Show and C Season 2.
Season 2 trailer is out for the Morning Show. I haven't seen it yet. Does it look good?
Yeah, it looks very morning showy. And Morning Show, to me, the last few episodes of that were terrific, so I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if they can recapture the magic. Some people are complaining about Ted Lasso Season 2 magic, so you never know, but I'm hopeful.
Oh, haven't watched any of that yet. Looking forward to it. If you wanted something a little different, The Tragedy of Macbeth is coming to Apple TV October 17th. The Coen brothers have written it. It's Shakespeare's Macbeth as seen by the Coen brothers, starring Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand as Lady Macbeth. That's going to be interesting.
Ooh.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
You got me.
Yeah, that's coming. Of course, we all saw the Foundation trailer. Yes, the long trailer now.
That is going to be so great or an epic fail, and I just don't know.
So great or so bad, we don't know.
I just don't know. I'm like, this looks so
interesting.
Looks so good. Yeah. It looks so dramatic.
Yeah.
But you love the big swing, and you're glad that's what streaming media can do. That it doesn't. We're not putting all of our hopes on $100 million opening weekend. It's okay to take some risks. It's okay to go for a smaller audience that will absolutely love the hell out of this, as opposed to getting everybody in the theater at the same time.
Yeah.
Big swing.
It's definitely the way to make it. I think Dune is going to have a trouble with it. Only 2 movies to do that whole novel. It makes a lot more sense to take something and spread it out over many hours. How many hours is it going to be? Do we know? Is it 10 hours, 8 hours? How many episodes? Yeah.
But I think the trend is series. There's no reason for a subscription model to make movies.
Right.
I mean, that's the one. Like now, when I see movies, I'm like, oh, they really did that? Like why did they?
They only had an hour and a half for that.
Like they only have 2 hours to tell a story. I mean, we could have done The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings for like 5 years, like every week.
Yeah. Well, good news. Amazon is remaking The Lord of the Rings, and
I don't think they're remaking it. They're making it's not part of the same. It's not allowed to touch the Lord of the Rings, so it's at a different time.
Oh,
yeah.
So I don't know if I like that. Let's see. There's still a little bit of Apple TV left. Something to do with Ryan Reynolds and Ron McElhaney demanding shortbread biscuits.
So I think that there was a passing comment in the recent Ted Lasso that was maybe giving I haven't seen it, but it evidently gave kind of a side comment about their purchase of the football team, and they sent a cease and desist, letter.
So actually, they have a Welsh football team, Wrexham AFC. They actually did buy that.
I think they did. Yeah,
they're referred to in Ted Lasso as having owning it.
Yeah. And I think that they demanded, they sent out a cease and desist letter and demanded cookies.
Yeah. While we hold the incomparable Jeremy Smith with no ill regard and are honored to be mentioned on the platform that's brought us high quality programming ranging from Mythic Quest Season 1 to Mythic Quest Season 2. Of course, Rob's the star of that show and creator. We must insist that you cease and desist from the casting of any doubt regarding our commitment to the club, the fans, and the entire Wrexham community. We want 2 large boxes of Ted Lasso's biscuits to be sent to the club ahead of the season kickoff this weekend to avoid legal action.
And once again, Ryan Reynolds wins the internet.
Yeah. He's good, man. He's so Guy's good. Yeah. Guy's good at what he does. We have completely lost Renee, and this was his story. This is the one he really wanted to talk about. I feel terrible. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a little pause, see if we can get Renee back, and we will get your picks of the week in just a moment as we continue with Mac Break Weekly. Renee Ritchie, youtube.com/Renee Ritchie, Andy Anatko, WGBH Boston, of course, Anatko.com, and from officehours.global, the man who never sleeps, Mr. Alex Lindsay. Renee, let's, before we lose you again, let's kick off with your pick of the week this week.
All right, so my pick of the week is just a really quick one. It's something I really liked. It's Nomad Goods, which makes some of my favorite leather products for my favorite Apple products. And they just showed off today I don't know how to describe it. It's like a leather sticker. It's like one of those vinyl, not vinyl, but one of those stickers you put on the back of an iPhone that's really minimalist. But this is made out of their famous leather.
It's real Horween leather. Yeah, the Chicago leather guys. And it works with the MagSafe.
Really, really good stuff.
That's nice.
Yeah.
But it isn't a case.
You got to imagine that
it's just the back.
And I don't want a case, but I am just, I don't want to use a bad word on this show, but I am just that kind of jerk that would love to pose with a finely leather-backed iPhone, put it artisanally on the side of my coffee cup shot on Instagram. I am that worst, terrible person. And this is just perfect because I don't want anything big. I don't want anything bulky. But also one of the worst aspects of modern iPhones, it's like anything that has inductive charging also seems by law to require the slipperiest back imaginable.
True.
And I'm going back to like Palm Pre's, Nexus 4s, all of the current Galaxy Flips. They race to the edge of a perfectly flat table in no time at all, and then all you find out is boom on the floor. So I put my iPhone 12 down, and it inevitably falls off. And leather has friction, and it's not bulky. It's not going to weigh me down. It's not going to feel big in my pocket. It's not going to do anything but stop my phone from falling. And that's the kind of preventative protection I really want. If it's already falling, I don't need the ceramic shield. It's too late. Stop it from falling to begin with. And it's my hope that I can do that and look good, like look Indiana Jones good while doing it too.
Looks nice. It's nice and thin. Yeah, it's just a skin for the back. But Nomad does.
It's minimalist.
I have a lot of Nomad stuff. They do really nice leather.
That's
you can flex on your flat lay, Leo.
Yeah.
That's the lovely thing about those camera bumps. It makes it really easy to locate an accessory like that.
That's a good point.
It just simply snips around it. It looks like now the camera bump is flushed with that leather back. It looks like it was a built-in. So don't complain about bumps. They have their uses.
I might get this actually. Yep. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah.
Ordered immediately.
Yeah. Andy Nako, pick of the week.
Mine is a really cool app to help you take your pills, your medications. There's an app called Hello Meds that I just came across last week. It's iPhone only, and what I like about it is that there are all kinds of different apps for making sure that you take your medication on time. But they're very linear. They're very literal in how they work. It's like, okay, on this page you take it, you list what your pill is, how many you need to take, and what time you're supposed, and it will give you a reminder that you have taken. You need to take the thing. This is more flexible, so it can do stuff like that, but it's also for I take a brain pill that is not necessarily the same time every day. It's like if I feel as though I'm going to be talking extemporaneously on Mac break for a couple hours, it helps if I take this pill like an hour beforehand, so that the dents and the scratches in my brain get buffed over well enough that I can have my best chance at a really good conversation. So it's not necessarily the right a certain time of every day. It's just as needed per use. And this is very good for tracking. Yes, I did use that today, so that means that I can't take another one for another X hours, or even if it is a case of a pill that you take every morning when you wake up. Maybe you are so foggy, because you've just woken up, you don't know whether you just sort of automatically took your pill or whether you decided to go and wash your face, and by the time you get back, you don't know if you've taken it or not. To log exactly when you've taken this sort of stuff. I like the way that it works. You can tell from the blog. It says in the blog post it was written by somebody who needed to track their own meds, as opposed to someone who did a focus group. And it definitely has that. You can tell by the way that this thing works. Now, I did read the privacy statement. My understanding from the privacy statement is that all of the personal data in terms of the medication you use and what times you're taking them stays on the device. It doesn't get synced up to anywhere else. That the usual stuff that's in the privacy statement has to do with if you are a user of this app, obviously it knows that you're using this app. If the company is bought or if the app is bought by another company, then that other company will know that you own this app and you have been using it, but it won't have access to the data you've been entering. So that's probably the one question that you want to have answered before you start using an app like this. This is the sort of stuff that I really wish I could. It's the other thing that I want to make sure I pointed out. It is also completely wired into shortcuts. So if you want to just put a big button on your home screen that says yes, I took the orange and purple pill, whatever that is, and it will create the log, or if you want to create a widget that just simply shows you an update of what you have taken today, when you took it, when what you need to still take. It can handle all that too, generating reports if you want to do that through shortcuts. I mean, it is the sort of app that makes me want to switch back to iPhone as my regular phone. Android apps are great. I mean, they're beautiful. I love a lot of the stuff that I use, but it seems like the stuff that is just perfect solution to a problem like this and supports additional technologies like shortcuts. They're far and few between on Android. This is one of the big advantages you get by using the iPhone. So big ups for this. I think it's very well focused for the way that people take a bunch of medications over the course of a day.
Hello Meds from hellocode.co. And it's free, right? Looks like it's free.
It is free. I didn't see an in-app purchase thing. Nice. I rather did not. I've only been using it like on my iPad for the past week to see how well it works.
It looks cool. So, yeah, they're Australian, so I'm sure they're nice.
There you go. Well, again, they have to take anti-venom pills. They have to take various antidotes. Yeah. You have to get various shots. So
you never know.
It's a life or death thing over there. So you trust an Australian about medication.
Trust your meds. And it is written in Swift, so it's absolutely native. Yeah, I was checking that
beautiful
out.
Looking at.
All right, we have saved the most expensive for last.
Not this time. Yeah, the quick kind of small one. For Apple TV, just as an aside, Watch the Sound with Mark Ronson is pretty slick. It's really getting behind of how music. I was just watching a synth one, but he's got lots of other ones that are in there in Apple TV Plus. And so if you're just looking for something that's a little bit more documentary around music, it's worth checking out. It's a little overproduced here and there, but a lot of the content's really good.
Watch the Sound. Looks like it has Andy's favorite Dave Grohl is there, so that looks good.
It's going to be good if it's Dave Grohl's there. My pick for the week though it's from Don Komarachka, and it's called Macro Photography. And
Don is amazing. We've had him on hands on photography.
In this book, it is a coffee table book. Like it is so nice.
The snowflake guy.
He was, he is, but he really took it to another level with the macro photography. Nice. And it's just a book that you just want to just look at the pretty pictures, but it also breaks down how to actually do it. Like, this is the way that you put these together. And he is really taking this to a whole different level, of really talking about how to do it, how to process it, the kind of tools that you need. And he's been on Office Hours and walked us through a lot of this stuff. And I don't know if there's anybody that's thinking as hard about this as he is right now in the world. And it's just, the workflows that are in here. So it's not just, here's the best part about this. It's a pretty book with pretty pictures that you can just enjoy. And then it comes with a bunch of great information that you can actually use to do it yourself. It's a really, really amazing piece of work that I know he's worked really hard on. And anyway, so I just think that it's a magnificent book, and it's the kind of book that you want to buy to make sure that he keeps doing this, whatever he wants to do next. Because it's so well written and well laid out and beautiful to look at. And again, it has great, real life. It's not a author trying to figure out how to do macro. It's someone who's really passionate about macro photography, really giving you everything you need to know to actually do it. And then made it pretty. You usually get one or the other. You don't get both at the same time. And this book is both. And it's just, I would run, not walk to go get it. Yeah. If you're interested in that at all.
Photography, the universe at our feet. There's an ebook edition. I bet you want the $75 coffee table.
It's really nice.
I promise you.
You have it too, Andy?
I have it too, and it's a beautifully made, beautifully bound, beautifully printed book. It's not a $21 dummies guide. Yeah. It really is something. It is a how-to book you would keep, again, like Alex said, on the coffee table, because you will be flipping through it, enjoying the experience of looking at these pictures, and with the extra secret sauce that when you're many of these books of these kinds, you become inspired to take photographs like this, and this book will tell you and help you and how to actually do that, whether you have really expensive equipment or you don't have really expensive equipment. It's a very, very well done book.
Wow, really neat. He's done a number of other books, but this is his newest. It's in pre-release, actually. All pre-orders have shipped. New orders ship immediately. Macro Photography, The Universe at Our Feet. I guess it's officially out now. And the best way to get it is from his website. You can go to skycrystals.ca if you want to get it from him directly. Good recommendation. I'm going to buy that right now. I already bought the Nomad case. So, and I downloaded Hello Meds. So I guess we have a hat trick. It's been a while since we've had a hat trick. Thank you, Alex Lindsay, officehours.global. What's the latest over at Office Hours?
The interesting thing is that the second hours have just gotten really good. Like I've gotten to the point, I don't know if I said this last week, but I don't want to meet with any software companies or hardware companies without my posse, because they think about all the questions I wouldn't have thought of. We had some guys on talking about remote music today, and it was, what was interesting about it is that we probably asked them 50, 60 questions in an hour. Like it was just a peppering of stuff, and I learned so much. So it was just a really interesting thing. Our Saturdays are back, the long days. So we have education. Then we switch to Unreal Engine. Then we switch to we're literally cutting a show in Belfast from all over the world. So last week we had the person editing the show was in Germany. We had different people calling the show. Some were in Boston, and some were in Maryland, and some were in other places. And then, but the bar, we had a band that came in just for us, and so because we were trying to figure it out, like how do we cut the show in Belfast from all over the world? And we said someone from the West Indies was doing part of it as well. So there's all this interaction. We're now getting to a point where we're not just talking. There's a lot of people hanging out and doing things together. And then after that, after we finished that, we started cooking. I made some incredible chutney. So like the best chutney ever. And so we did it together, because we're figuring out how to learn something together physically as well as making good food.
So it's not just watching you read a cookbook making chutney. It's a confab.
Damayanti Garjar, who is in South Africa, Indian in South Africa, teaching us how to do it live. And wow. So she's answering all the questions, and this is what you want, cool. And this is how you do it. And I think the video's up there, and so it's breaking new ground in the idea of what it is to learn how to do that. So Damayanti, and it's of course it's us. So she's got Hasmukh has her husband has 2 Blackmagic 6Ks, and a switcher, and they're like, we're not, this isn't.
Oh my God!
This isn't like your webcam, and so we're kind of taking it to an entirely
I
absurd
think you
level.
have actually this is a breakthrough in media, frankly, because the idea of having 60 people asking questions at once, it really is 10 times better. And then the idea of doing these kind of remote cooking things, you're inventing a new kind of media that I think is very successful, very interesting. It really works.
It's interesting. It's getting interesting, and it gets more interesting every week. And now there's an after hours, which I'll jump into after we have this show. And and we'll just be all hanging, but everyone's hanging out 24/7. So there's 50, 60 people there. And what happens is you just ask, you have a question. Oh, I don't understand this. And someone is there to show you, how to do that. And it's there, you can see me in my kitchen working away.
They told us at Tech TV, we can't have a mirror in the ceiling for a top down. Those shake. It's too hard to do that. My God.
Well, that's not a mirror. That's just a camera up there.
That's just a camera?
Just pointed down.
Oh God.
But it's,
look at this.
But here's the crazy thing is,
I want some. Yeah.
And the cameras though, before the show were
switching?
Shaded from New York.
Who's doing the switching?
Hasmukh, her husband. He's
but not just her switching. Who's switching to the other people on the Zoom call?
Oh, we had. I'm not sure. I feel bad now because I can't remember.
So somebody's
in Zoom.
So there's some director that's doing some cutting.
Right. So what happens is that they're in Zoom.
Whoever's running the conference, I guess, is doing it. They're
basically what their view is. So they're able to cut it in Zoom, and what goes out to YouTube is what's being cut. And
because this is like. This is like We Are the World. You've got people all over the world with their cameras doing something, and somebody's cutting it probably in another country.
Yeah.
Oh my God! In real time.
Yeah.
Look how good this looks.
Yeah.
Does the South African chastise Alex?
This is what happens.
Can you get the Zoom logo out of there? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah. That's next. It's not. We're the new system is.
I mean, I don't mind giving a plug because it's pretty amazing. That you could do this.
What's nice about this is that it's really easy. The Zoom logo comes with, wow, I just hit go and it goes.
Right.
The new system that we're building for the fall actually takes all the feeds out, kind of like what you're doing for this show.
I just love this.
It takes them all out and puts them into graphics, and then
Right.
So and then we're taking, the problem we have is that instead of having 4 people, we have 20.
Right.
So we have to build an entirely new, the new logic system to be able to cut randomly between 20 people
What's this thing in the upper left-hand corner?
Oh, that's our meters. Make sure your audio meters are right. I mean, we got scopes. The one next to it are scopes.
Oh, that's a scope.
Scopes and meters. Yeah.
Shame. You're mastering shame-based engineering.
Yeah,
Tony's flaring on his forehead. Looks like someone doesn't understand how to do auto white leveling.
Yeah, and JJ is who's cutting. So JJ, who's the black screen down there, JJ is cutting the show. Like he's sitting there in there just making
and that's why he's got a blank screen. And Bobby, who's Bobby? Because she looks like she knows what she's doing in there. This is good.
Yeah, Bobby is in Monterey.
Mad in the Kitchen Live. She's even got an apron.
Yeah, well, that was because we did a bunch of shows, Mad in the Kitchen, which was even a bigger thing because we were really bringing all those in and cutting them closer to Twit. That was an experiment, over a couple weekends, and so there's something about cooking.
What's Shannon's husband doing back there? What's he up to? He's putting in more
that's her mom. Yeah,
that's her mom. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Cable puller.
But the
she's sneaking in to chop some garlic.
Yeah. I got to tell you though, this is the way to learn how to cook because you have
incredible.
The person who wrote the book. So Damayanti wrote a book on Ayurvedic cooking. So it's a vegetarian. Wow. It's really healthy. Wow. And so she wrote this book, and she's going through these different recipes that are in the book, and we're all learning and able to ask questions from the author, from the person who wrote it.
I'm telling you,
while we're working. And
folks, this is
really
the Ernie
amazing.
Kovacs of the future. I mean, this is reinventing the medium. It's very interesting.
You've created a skunk works for video.
Yeah,
it's like you'll just figure it out. You're on your own.
It's amazing.
Well. We have we have people now starting shows, and then a whole bunch of people just group in and build the show. Like we built, Tony Mobley has one that is, it's an interview show, kind of like, but he was doing it through Zoom, and everyone said, I think we can do this in AWS. And next thing you know, it's got graphics and super sources and everything else, all being done in the cloud, and it was figured out in like a couple days by people who are working together, and that's on Wednesday nights. And so I love
this scope go as part of the Zoom session.
Oh yeah. We don't mess around.
Oh my God, this is awesome. This is mind blowing.
It's just
one of the many things going on.
Yeah, it's a really and it's an incredible community. I mean, the thing is that it's a really supportive community. Probably, right. I've never seen one like it online, and that's just because of the type of people who showed up. And you can see that there's a lot of reasonably good cameras.
Yeah, everybody looks good there. Yeah,
everyone looks good, and there's almost like probably half of us.
What do you call that? Shame-based engineering? Is that what you call that?
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta look good. Gotta look good.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's a really good conversation.
I didn't get it at first. I just thought you were being a masochist, but I see now there was some method in your masochism. So
it's taken a long time, but it's cool. Again, it's really more about the community is slowly taking over.
Always the best way to do it. Always the best way. Let the community run it. Officehours.global if you want to join that amazing community and kind of see what's happening. If I were a network executive, I'd be watching this really closely.
It's getting interesting.
Really closely. Yeah. Andy and Akko, when are you going to be on Old School WGBH in Boston next?
Well, me and my like $80 worth of stuff are going to be on at 12:30. Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Oh, look at that. That's nice. How'd you do that so fast? That's amazing. Okay, if you're not watching video, we have figured out how to transport Andy's sideburns.
That is great.
Cheshire grin. Yeah, see, in the time where you started doing the picks of the week, I subcontracted a job out to people who are doing late shift in South Korea and
John
and
Bull,
India.
I need you to do me a favor.
Went on Fiverr.com. This cost me $80.
I'm gonna guess that's an Anthony Nielsen. Yeah, Anthony's amazing. Well done, Anthony.
Yes. Nicely done.
He's heard our conversation at the beginning of the show and created the invisible Andy by the end. Unbelievable. Well done. Well done.
I could have that done in about a month. Well done.
I just want to see the memes. I want to see the memes from Twitter on all of that, please. Just post them for us. Tag us.
Here, do it one more time so they can get a screen grab. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the invisible Andy Ihnatko. Maybe a slower dissolve would be good.
Mr. Cellophane.
This is also a Fantastic Four. If Kevin Feige is watching, this is his Fantastic Four audition.
Well, of course, now I'm stuck wearing the same hat every week. But okay,
yeah.
I'll for anything for special effects.
What day?
Yes, I'm on Friday, 12:30 afternoon. You can stream it live or later at wgbhnews.org.
That's awesome, man. And Mr. Rene Ritchie is on youtube.com/Rene Ritchie. What are you working on these days?
I was so heartened that Apple listened to all our feedback and fixed Safari in a mere 2 months that I humbly suggested 3 more things, including CSAM scanning, advertising, and game streaming that I would really love for them to fix just as fast before the next iPhone launches.
3 mistakes Apple needs to fix before iPhone 13. Will they do it? In 2 months, watch youtube.com/Rene Ritchie.
You'll find out.
Subscribe, press the bell to get notified, all of that stuff. That's awesome.
All the dinguses.
All the dinguses. Do all the dinguses.
Show title.
Yeah, maybe. Sometimes we like to do it at the very end.
So long as we're not a show for OnlyFans, I think we can get in with that.
Yeah, that's right.
Just make sure you're listening to the end because you never know when Andy's going to slam that title down on the table.
You never know. Thank you, all 3 of you. Always a pleasure. I get to work with some of the best people in the world every single Tuesday. We're at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. You can watch us do it live. There's always a great conversation before and sometimes after the show at twit.tv/live. There's live audio and video streams there. People who watch live often like to chat live with the others watching live. That's at irc.twit.tv. If you're a member of Club Twit, a mere $7 a month, not only do you get ad-free versions of all our shows, but you also get access to our Discord where there's lots of people chatting and having a grand time putting up animated GIFs. And there you go. They've already got a screen grab of Invisible Andy. So that's a place to go if you want to get that exclusive from Club Twit. Find out more at twit.tv/Club Twit. On-demand versions of the shows available at our website. As always, everything we do is available for free. You don't have to join the club to get it. Just go to twit.tv/MBW. You'll also find a link there to our YouTube channel with all the MacBreak Weekly episodes. There's also, of course, links to well-known podcast applications, but you can use us with any podcast application. However, if you do, please leave us a review. 5 stars would be nice. Let the world know about your love for MacBreak Weekly. I think we are, if not the oldest, among the oldest Apple podcasts, now entering our 16th year in podcasting.
Wow, has it been that long?
Yeah, when did you do the first Mac Breaks? Do you know? Because Alex started this whole thing.
I think that it was. Did we mention, by the way? I don't know whether it happened before or after the last one that Emery sold Frame.io.
He did.
Yes.
$1.275 billion.
What?
Yeah.
Adobe, right?
Is he going to take us on his yacht?
I don't know. In cash, not stock. Cash. 1.275 billion.
Did he have a fairly large stake in the thing?
I think he did. He founded it. I think he probably made more than $10. I don't think,
I knew him when he was just a normal person.
Yeah,
now he's a Trace Commas.
For those who are watching, Emery was in episode 1 of MacBreak Video. So the very first one, it was Leo and I and Amber MacArthur and Emery. And he was on This Week in Media and so.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
the
you
first
just did that last week.
MacBreak Weekly was, we actually just celebrated our 15th anniversary, was August 12th, 2006, but MacBreak itself is older than that.
And also MacBreak Weekly, that's the first Twit one, right? Because I think that we were doing MacBreak Weekly, I think, in the spring.
You were doing, I thought you were just doing MacBreak. You were also doing MacBreak Weekly.
Yeah, so we had played with it, and then you took it. Over.
Did I steal it from you? No.
You did not. No. We talked about it. I knew it would do better under you than me. So
I hope I didn't steal it from you. That would
You did not steal it from me at all. No. You asked if I wanted to put it in there, and I was like, absolutely. And because I knew that it would be better in your box than my box. So which it has been. You can see all the other podcasts that I do, how well they're doing.
You did the first Mac Break TV shows in 2006 also, it looks like.
Yeah, I think that was number one. That was the very first Mac Breaks
episode.
The 1080p episodes, the infamous 1080p episodes, yeah. Still the most viewed one was the road to 1080p.
The road, how we got to this crazy thing. Now
that was episode 2.
Now 1080p's nothing.
Yeah, but it was a thing back. I mean, there was a lot of what have I done moments because we shot like I think we shot 15 or 16 episodes in green screen 1080p and I did stupid things like I made the table green in the very first one, and so we had all these contact shadows and everything else, and computers that could barely do it, and I was just like, oh, this was a horrible idea. And Leo is sending me emails about every day going, hey, when are we doing this? I already talked about it, and when are we going to release these? And I'm like, so the road to 1080p was like, I just got to put something up, and then we got them all out. But it was, and then within the next shoot or two, we were doing 25 in a given day. Yeah, so it wasn't.
It's there's a Wikipedia article about all of this where I'm learning things that I never knew. I didn't even know there was a Mac Break Minutes featuring Merlin Mann and Kenji Kato.
And that happened in 2005. That was in the fall before this.
Wow.
I think.
Never even knew about that.
Yeah.
Wow. Fascinating.
I fought it at first, but I think moving away from Flash video was ultimately the right idea for the future of the show. I admit it. I was short-sighted.
So thank you for joining us on the spin-off of the original Mac Break. The spin-off is a mere 15 years old. But
we are the Joni Loves Chachi.
The reboot.
Yes, that's right.
It's the reboot. The reboot.
I like spin-off better. It's Joni Loves Chachi. Thank you all for being here. We will see you again next week. As Alex Lindsay has always told me, I must say, now it's time to get back to work because break time is over. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Hope you enjoyed that episode. If you would like to laugh while learning about how to take control and take advantage of all of the features that your iOS devices provide, then you should check out iOS Today. The show Rosemary Orchard, my co-host, and I, Micah Sargent, host every week on the Twit Network. It's all things Apple all the time.